got to be knowing about people. Gotta reach 'em, sit right down.
Ronald Reagan roasting Joe Biden is a thing of beauty.
The man who all his years in the Senate voted against every weapon system except slingshots is now talking tough about our adversaries and the need for national security. You're right, he doesn't. To those of you who are too far away to hear, a lady up here said he doesn't know what he's talking about. She's absolutely right.
Want to get it off your chest? You're in the right place. They accuse this show of being run by boobs. Well, let me tell you about us boobs. We're real and we're spectacular. Want politics and fun sprinkled with a lot of laughs? Heard in every state in the Union and 1,000 cities around the world. We just finished 16 years of broadcast excellence, now in our 17th year. The Dave Weinbaum Show is streaming live all over the world. You know, Biden has always been stupid, and now he's been the fake president for 4 years. Trump is digging us out of a vast danger and anti-Semitism that now breaks out into anti-Christianity and anti-mild Muslims. But last night was a doozy. Trump and his favorite adopted son, Elon Musk, need to have a meeting that will involve give and take in a tariff, and give and take involving Musk's businesses and Trump's obligations to fulfill his electoral promise, the Great Big Bill. Our real international threat, China, is what he needs strength for. Negotiation with a country who rolled over on a corrupt Biden-Obama administration to put murderous pandemics, balloon spying, fentanyl in the hands of Americans to the tune of 100,000 dead every year. Also, the Wuhan lab as the source that was denied for years by China, and traders like Fauci who made a fortune out of it. China must be held accountable for this. And the 27-year-old, or 27,000 Chinese let into Harvard each year, obliged to killing Americans and overturning our Constitution, and aligned with the Communist China Party. This is capped by a purchase of farmland all over the USA, many near USA military fields. Biogen recently smuggled into us by Chinese students at Harvard. As smart as Trump is, he must end the Musk hissy fit immediately. Let's settle this. Let's fix the real dangers. A window of opportunity won't open itself. My next guest is waiting patiently, I hope, for us to talk. Him and his wife, who is not there. Oh, my God. Heroes for all who believe our Constitution. What the hell is that? Is there a bomb going off or what? Became warriors on the day they were barefoot in their backyard. Please welcome Mark and wishfully Pat McCloskey from St. Louis. Well, thank you, kind sir, for being on the show. And why is your poor wife out there working?
Well, you know, for all of you guys that are behavioral psychologists, one of my undergraduate degrees is in behavioral psychology. And one of the things you know is that if you got a random reward schedule, that it enhances a controlled behavior, right? And so by not having Patty on once in a while, we encourage people subconsciously to watch the show to see when Patty's going to reappear.
So as a lawyer, how do you account for all this BS? Great friend, the McCloskeys. We broke a story last week about 1/6, and somehow it failed to find the mainstream media. It's nowhere. Have you seen it anywhere? Okay, so we're going to still pipe this thing out. Yeah, it's crickets. You're right, it's crickets. Well, we got a great show today. We've got JJ Bradshaw at 8:10. I don't know if he'll be in-house, but he'll be here, I think, either by phone or in-house. Rabbi Moshe, who got locked down yesterday, was it? But he should be here. He knows I'm not his brother-in-law, and he's going to have to call me, I hope. He's scheduled for 8:40. And at 10 o'clock, we got a new guest. This is Dr. J.K., I'll call her. It's hard to pronounce her name. Let's just call it J.K. Hasson. And she's actually from Western Australia. We're linked up to Western Australia. That's as far as we've ever gone. So we're going to travel from the rabbi at 8:40 from Israel to Western Australia, all by link. I mean, this it sounds really, really weird, doesn't it?
Time and space can't stop the Dave Weinbaum Show.
You're darn right. You're darn right. All right, that's super. And at 10:30, we have the great Senator maybe coming up, representative, and he is right now a representative. He's going to run for the Senate, and that would be Bill Hardwick. So we got a great show for you. And finally, my lovely bride walks in. Yes, you may come in, honey.
I don't want to interrupt you.
No, please, because you make me nervous when you're just standing out there looming over me.
Well, I'm trying to listen.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm outside the door.
All right. Well, you look like you look nice today, honey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very nice. Very nice. You're always a distraction to me, and that's a good thing, isn't it? I think. I don't know. So my wife is here, thank God, and we've got Rick Henderson out there in Salem, and he does a great job with the clips and the bits. We got a couple of new little surprises for you today, and we'll talk about what we got going when JJ is on. What do we got for him? Is this like, are we waiting for him or what? I can't even see anymore.
He hasn't shown up yet.
Okay.
I'm sure he'll be arriving shortly.
All right. So we're going to be talking about the Trump Musk thing. You know, things look like they're all Musk's up. And I was making so much fun with this, and everybody was commenting on it on the show prep. And last night when I go out and push the show on X and Facebook, and most of these people are really good about not only sending it out, but also a lot of fun. They send out little pictures of the show, and they're very loyal. I've got some real loyal fans out there in X and in Facebook, and I see a face right there, and there he is, I think. And that would be my friend. He is 256 years old, and he has the right to look down on me. I mean, he's very, very astute, and he's what?
If I remember correctly, I think it might be somebody's birthday today.
Oh, really? Is it now 257 years?
It is 257, Dave.
Wow. Still getting that Social Security?
Yeah, you got to keep working for a living, you and JP, so you can pay into that thing.
Yeah, you've been getting it for what? Even though it wasn't even there, you were getting Social Security back in the early days.
Well,
anyways,
Elon Musk hasn't found me yet, but
57. I gotta make a note of that.
I'm one of those guys that's 200 plus years old. But yeah, happy birthday to me, fa la la.
Yeah, and you've missed the investigation by
Yeah.
the Doge boys.
I did.
And he's mad. You know what? He
I'm
missed
sure.
you. Now he's mad at Trump about it.
Well, take these things as a grain of salt, Dave.
Yeah.
These are two of the smartest guys on the planet. And I think it was time for them to give a little bait to the mainstream media. And I think that's exactly what they did.
Now, my wife says this is intentional. You really think this is intentional?
No,
I do.
I think
I do.
it's fake. Yeah.
Well, fake, intentionally fake.
It's fake. It's
Okay. Why?
It is two of
What's
the
the point?
smartest guys on the planet dangling a little bait in front of the mainstream media. And as Hillary Clinton would say, and I believe it's a vast right-wing conspiracy.
Has she left the country yet, by the way? She said she was.
One would certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Say,
So-
Dave, this has been a week, as so many weeks that have passed between you and I, where we are drowning in stuff to talk about. There is so much fur flying in Washington, D.C. It's hard to sift through all of that and pick out stuff that's noteworthy.
Well, have at it, my friend.
Well, I'm going to get after it. SCOTUS, of course, our Supreme Court of the United States of America, made some interesting decisions this last week. There are three of them that I want to talk about. Let's talk about the first, which was Marlene Ames versus Ohio Department of Youth Services. This was a Title VII case, and Marlene Ames claimed that she was discriminated against in the workplace because she is a heterosexual white woman. And folks who were gay, DEI promotes, passed her by. She was actually demoted from a managerial position to a secretarial position. So she sued and she won. And here's the important part about that little thing is this, 9-0, the Supreme Court said that there is no heightened standard if you are a heterosexual white woman. Title VII has been interpreted wrongly, I might add, that if you are Black or homosexual or of some minority group, and it could be some obscure minority group, you have a lesser standard of proof than someone who is in the majority, like a heterosexual, normal white woman. They would claim, Ohio claimed, and their district courts claimed that Marlene Ames had a heightened standard of proof. The Supremes came back and said, no, 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 we are all equal in this country, and there is no heightened standard of proof. 9-0, they sided with this woman.
That's a major victory for this country and the Constitution.
I think so. It's a major victory for those of us who believe in right and wrong.
Right.
The Supreme's next effort, and this is one that's mighty close to my heart, was, if you recall, in 2005, there was a Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act that was passed and signed into law, which says gun manufacturers cannot be sued unless they're way out of line for someone who misuses their product down the way. This would be the same as saying somebody eats at your McDonald's, gets sick 2 weeks later and said it was your hamburger. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, thanks for that example, by the way, you know.
It's the same idea, though. And Mexico with a bunch of the gun grabbers and the Soros folks in the United States had sued $10 billion, had sued the gun manufacturers. In this case, Smith & Wesson was the main defendant. And 9-0, our Supreme Court said, no, no, no. Our gun manufacturers who are engaged in lawful commerce have no control over what your cartels, Mexico, do with those weapons. We don't even sell them in Mexico. They're smuggled across the border. Again, the Supremes got it right. This was a Second Amendment victory for the manufacturers of guns in this country.
Anybody dissenting on it? Was it 9-zip?
It was 9-zip. Yep.
That's amazing.
It's about time. The
Whoa,
last one.
Got into these guys. Maybe the setup with Trump was such as to maybe lessen the possibility that our main Supreme Court justice might have been on the Epstein list.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's something we need to talk
Taking
about.
off the pressure a little, or maybe adding on to it.
Could be.
Yeah.
The third SCOTUS, and this one is important too, and this is a First Amendment decision, 9-0. This was Wisconsin, who violated the First Amendment rights of Catholic charities. This was Catholic Charities versus Wisconsin regarding an unemployment tax. And what it amounted to was this: Wisconsin decided what was a religious nonprofit and what was not. Catholic Charities, of course, is registered as a nonprofit organization, and Wisconsin said, no, you must pay unemployment tax because we don't think you're a nonprofit. This went through the circuit courts, the district courts, and ultimately the Supreme Court said, Wisconsin, you're not allowed to make those sorts of decisions. If this organization registers as a Catholic charity, we're not going to argue about that. They have a First Amendment right to do what they want to do. Separation of church and state, freedom of speech. We all know the litany. And 9-0, the Supreme
9-0. 9 times. 9 times.
It's 9 times. 9
times.
I like it.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
That's now if they do something that they can only do something about these crazy judges out there who are not constitutionally allowed to do what they're doing to the Trump administration or any presidential administration, we'd be in good shape.
It's coming, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah.
I think when the Supremes re-adjourn end of summer, they're going to be lined up to take care of some of those problems.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a moment about Ukraine.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians pulled off a little something similar to what the Israelis did with the pagers and the walkie-talkies a few months back, where they blew up a whole bunch of terrorists, which was possibly the biggest intelligence coup of the century.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians pulled one off too, and this was done so slick. This was called Operation Spiderweb. The Ukrainians said this has been planned and worked on for more than a year now. Here's what they did. They have some shipping containers, and apparently shipping containers come in a couple of different heights. They took the tallest shipping container, put a false roof on it, remote controlled, hid drones underneath it, and shipped them next to Russian air bases.
That's how they did it.
They pushed a button. Simultaneously, these roofs rolled back, and drones outfitted with explosives blew the hell out of a third of Russia's strategic air defense.
They didn't notice the buildings, the new buildings?
It wasn't buildings. These things were containers. When
so they were camouflaged as something.
When Customs inspects a container, they look all around the outside of it. They look on the inside of it. They don't find anything that's contraband. So they pass it on through, and it turns out the container itself contained the weapons in about a 1-foot space in the top of the thing. My hat is off to the Ukrainian intelligence folks that pulled this little coup off. Talk about embarrassment for the Russians.
Well, embarrassment, but now Putin is determined to get revenge for it. And
of course.
They killed about 50 people yesterday, roughly. And Trump is comparing this to a fight between kids. They all fight, and they don't even know why they're fighting at some point. And sometimes you just got to let them figure it out.
Well, of course.
Saying.
One of the comments
last night he said it.
one of the comments I saw regarding this, which interested me a lot, was that the Ukrainians did not bother to tell the United States they were fixing to pull this thing off. Why? Because Donald Trump was negotiating with Putin, and the Ukrainians were pretty sure that Trump would drop a dime on them and tell Putin what was fixing to happen.
Oh, really?
So, okay, an intelligence coup, well done. Okay, the next question is, why were all these aircraft sitting out? Well, we had a START treaty way, way back when that said, thou shalt put all your strategic bombers out in places where they can be seen from a satellite. We do that. The Russians do that. Everybody except North Korea does that, so that we can see firsthand if someone has launched a strategic first strike, non-missile type strike using bombers. So all of their stuff is sitting out on a runway. It's well within Russia and it's considered fairly secure until a third of it got the hell blown out of it. My hat's off to the Ukrainians. Did this escalate the war? Of course it did. But Dave, this is war. And remember who invaded who. So the Ukrainians, in my opinion, are justified in anything they might choose to do strategically. And they certainly embarrassed the Russians and hurt their Air Force to the tune of $7 or $8 billion worth of hardware. This stuff's not flyable aninianymore.
Yeah,
so my hat's off to them.
So how is Trump now? Trump says Putin told him that he's going to help him with Iran. He's going to help negotiate with Iran. But how does this? When will that war with Ukraine stop? It's apparently out of control.
I sure can't predict that, Dave. Cannot predict it. This thing is.
We still have an agreement for the valuable jewels or whatever they have there, don't we?
Well, we're talking valuable minerals.
Yeah.
And I think that agreement is still there, but it's kind of hard to mine that stuff in a war-torn country. Southwest Ukraine.
My point is, if they start doing it sooner than later, we will get involved in the war.
How about that?
It's
a sticky situation, isn't it, Dave?
Well,
I don't have any.
But we have examples of that. We occupied Japan, Germany, a lot of the European countries, Italy, and we actually have a good representation of stopping war via that situation.
Well, yeah, but I don't think
Korea,
the Congress is in any mood for such an outreach from us. So that might be kind of tough one to sell.
Yeah.
As a brighter note, beyond intelligence things, Karine Jean-Pierre, who, if you recall, was
Did you have that? Wait, did you have that in one sentence? Intelligence and Karine
Jean-Pierre, the Brillo-headed woman who was the spokesman for Biden's failed outfit. If you recall, anytime that you watch this woman for about a year, stupid spewed out of her mouth pretty regularly, and also things that were clearly lies. Clearly.
But she did what, in her defense, that's exactly what they wanted.
Well, she did what they asked them to do, of course.
Exactly.
If the president of the United States asks you to do something, you're going to do it. I get it.
Or get out, or do something else.
Dave, she got it out, and she has written a book which is due to be released called, and I quote, "Independent: a look inside a broken White House outside the party lines." End quote. This is the title of this little tome. I haven't read it. I may or may not read it.
Well, what bothers you by that title?
What bothers me?
Yeah.
Well, she wouldn't have been in that position if she wasn't a leftist lunatic to begin with. And now
Yeah.
she is going to leave the Democrat Party and become an independent and write a so-called tell-all book, not unlike what Jake Tapper did. No doubt there'll be a flurry of such activity that occurs. Whether I choose to read it or not will be my secret. But the point is, the folks that have left the Biden administration and have some knowledge of the inside working of it are now writing books to make a few bucks and expose some of this. The exposition, I'm proud to see, it needed to be exposed. Now the next big question is, who was running the show? And that takes me right to the next.
Uh-oh. What's that? Did your lights go out?
My lights went out. But
okay.
My router's on a UPS, so we're okay.
All right. Well, I wanted to mention this, though, is the real problem with what's going on is she had to be writing this book about all the bad things about the Biden administration while she was in the middle of defending and lying about the health and well-being of the Biden administration and Joe Biden.
You got right to the core of it, Dave.
Yeah.
This is the ridiculous part about this. She had to have been writing this thing for the last year. She had a ghostwriter. These things take a little bit of time. And as a segue to this, the question, of course, is who was running the Biden administration, who was running the auto pen, who was running an awful lot of things.
Yeah.
Trump has signed a memorandum to the House Oversight Committee to probe just that. Who was running this administration while Joe Biden was wetting his pants in the basement? And there are 5 people that they're going to talk to. 2 of them, one of them is the former chief of staff, Ron Klain, and senior advisor, Anita Dunn. And I think Jill Biden's senior advisor, or her chief of staff, is going to be talked to. So we've got some folks in the Congress that are going to look into this thing. Like so many congressional inquiries, though, Dave, will this go anywhere, or will it just be a bunch of dust and a bunch of noise?
Well, if history is like it is, it's not going to amount to much. But you have to have some accountability in this. You can't have people taking over the presidency for months and years, possibly, and let this country go. You can't do it.
Well, I agree with that. And think about this thing. When will we know what the result of this might be? Why is it important? Well, when the Congress looks at stuff, it doesn't move very fast.
Right.
We're past the first 100 days of this administration. So in a lot of people's minds, the majority of what this administration is able to do has already been done. I think, hey, look at that. We got lights back on. And God said, let there be light.
Yeah, how about that?
We got light.
And you know what? There's no more shine on. It looks like for your birthday, God is giving you a new head of hair. It looks like from here that you're growing a bunch of hair on top.
Oh, no, Dave.
What the hell's that about? You're making me look bad.
Pretty well bald, so that ain't going to happen. If God is going to give me something, I got some things I'd much rather have than hair.
Yeah, I'll bet you. Don't let your wife know.
Overrated.
Don't let your wife know.
One more thing.
Yes.
Let's see. We're coming up on the clock.
Yes.
Doge. Recall Doge. Elon Musk, big old Doge. When Elon left that, he left some pretty smart people and behind who are still looking into things.
Yeah.
And Joni Ernst, one of our senators, Republican, has introduced a bill called Delivering on Government Efficiency, DOGE. And according to her, there's about 150 billion, 9 zeros, in savings that can be had. Steve Scalise said, according to this bill that's been introduced, there's about 9.4 billion in rescission. So what does this tell me, Dave? This tells me that some of the things that Doge had uncovered are actually being operated on. There's action taking place in conjunction with executive orders. Now, where is this money coming from? NPR, PBS, and the ever popular, what is the name of it? The one that they shut down almost immediately to the tune of 10 billion. I forgot the name at the moment. It's old timers disease. I am in fact.
Yes, I know. Don't worry.
But the
I'm there
point
too.
is, Joni Ernst is bringing this thing in front of the Congress to be voted on. Whether it makes it out of committee or not, hell, who knows? But it shows me that at least on the Republican side of the aisle, there is activity occurring to make some of the Doge stuff stick. And that's good, because if we hadn't done that, all Doge was a big expose, and
Sure.
nothing happens like so often in Washington.
Well, I wonder if Musk is a little pissed off at the fact that, of course, that he's having business problems, and he was like threatened. They were blowing up Tesla cars. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can say that pissed them off that might be actually legitimate in what he's saying back. Not really, but still, he did a great favor to Donald J. Trump and the company and the country by finding out all this hidden money, and there's a lot more that they're not acting upon. Social Security, do they mention that at all or any of that stuff?
Yeah.
No.
I think Lisa and I are right that there have been conversations continuing between Musk and Trump that the public will never hear about. And I think part of this was a put on to distract the mainstream media. Are they actually feuding? I don't think so. Not very.
All right, let me read you some messages, because I think some of them are for you. Rico Camino, good morning. He's a friend of Rick Henderson's. Patricia Odin, Maxwell, sounding good, looking good, go team. By the way, you have scratchy noises all the time now. Do you know that?
Yeah, it's because I'm old.
No, out of your not because you're old. No, I'm serious. Static. You got static.
Yes, I do have problems on this end. I'm fixing to take this laptop out and put a bullet hole in it.
Well, yeah, and you have good aim, so you'll probably get it on the first one. Ann Maddox, happy birthday, JJ. We love you. They know it's your 257th birthday.
Well, thank you.
They'll probably get you a tie.
Yes.
Ray Maddox, good morning from Oklahoma. Happy birthday, Bradshaw. Anyone else? Katie Maddox, good morning, Grandpa. Happy birthday. I hope it's a great day. Of course it's a great day. He's on my show.
Thank you.
And Sharon, passing happy birthday to you and many, many more. Anyone else? My goodness. Kathy Sanford, Dylan, good morning and happy Friday. Oh, my goodness. Love you all. Have a fantastic weekend. And happy birthday, Patricia Odin.
Thank you.
All right. Is that it? And Kathy Sanford Dillon. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Not just happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy slappy birthday. That's from me. Okay.
Next Friday, I will attempt to take care of this static and cause it to go elsewhere.
Please use a bullet and just, wipe it out. Okay.
It's live radio, Dave.
Amazon is waiting for your call. Okay. You're on the list for Amazon. All right. Thank you, my friend. Have a great birthday day and weekend.
All right. I
Hear
appreciate
it for JJ Bradshaw. All right. I might have cut him off a little bit. I don't know. He was still talking. Anyways, I think we should do a couple of clips. No, we don't have time. Do two clips and and we'll get right into the rabbi, I hope. Let's hit it. Why doesn't Donald Trump become a judge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He might have to be a lawyer first. That'd be a challenge for him, but I guess now.
To give him an honorary degree. You could even do that, for God's sake.
Well, in Texas, back when I was going to law school in Texas, you got to put yourself in the mindset of a Texan, right? Because if you get elected to the legislature, you make laws, right? And if you make laws, you ought to be a lawyer, right? And so the law used to be in Texas, and if you got elected to the legislature, you didn't have to go to law school. You became a lawyer.
Tell us more about the rehearsal of the 1/6/21 event on September the 20th, I think it was.
Well, it's sometime in September, and this is really Peter Ticton's Ballywick. But he was commissioned by President Trump to do a 9-month investigation into the origins of January 6th, the staged insurrection staged by the Biden administration. It was supposed to be a coup against America, not the coup not the insurrection that they portray it to be. But apparently the planning goes back, at least video evidence of the planning going back as far as September of 2020. And the goal of all this was really 3 parts, right? The first part was just to send out a message to the American people that if you stand up against this government, if you stand up for what you believe in, we will crush you, we will destroy you, we will ruin your life, we'll put you in prison for the rest of your life if we want to. And we can do so because we have control of the judiciary in D.C. You've got a jury pool that hates you just for being who you are and will convict you of everything, no matter what the evidence is. The other part was to just treat the people they lured in, the entrapped J6ers, into receiving the harshest possible punishment. Once again, to go back to part number 1, to show the American people what happens if you don't shut up and sit down.
That's like the Holocaust. Like we weren't even human.
Exactly. And the third thing, of course, was to try to create a big enough event that they could claim that Trump. And by the way, all these guys, all the convicted J6ers, were given an option to reduce their sentences if they would make up the fact that Donald Trump inspired them to do it, right? That he ordered them to do it, that he was a head of this insurrection, right? So that he would be ineligible to run for election under the 14th Amendment. But like everything that Democrats do, they're so screwed up, they mess up everything. And now, just like all the lawfare against the president, it's backfired against him. And now more than ever, we understand just how corrupt they were.
Okay, we got a couple minutes, so let's do Paul Simon, 50 Ways. Yes, we'll do that. And also, let's see. I had something else in mind, but it's not looking good right now. Kamala A1 speech. Okay. There we go. Coming up, Steve Martin and Paul Simon. Hit it. Yeah, it's coming.
In the evening, and he said, "Steve, I'm so excited. I've just finished a new song, and I just have to tell somebody." And I said, "Oh, great. What's the title?" And he said, 47 Ways to Leave Your Lover. And I said, "Paul, what if it were 50? 50 ways to leave your lover." And there was a long pause. And he said, "Go on." And I said, "Well, 50 has a nice ring to it, and 47 sounds a little awkward." And he said, "But, I've got 47. I can't think of any more." And I said, "Make a new plan, Stan." And he said, 48. I said, "Don't need to be coy, Roy. Drop off the key, Lee." He said, "Okay, 50, great. Hey, thanks. And I'm sorry if I interrupted anything." I said, "Don't worry, I was just here cooking a chicken." And he said, "Oh, really? How are you preparing it?" And I said, "Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme." And now look it up.
I have a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine. that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right. And I'm looking at a familiar face right there. You never know these days when he's going to be hiding in a shelter somewhere. But this is the wartime rabbi. He's provides housing for IDF widows and their children, and also gets them all together so they feel like they're back with families as much as they can. Please welcome the official rabbi to the Dave Weinbaum Show for 16 years, Rabbi Moshe Rothschild. All right, geez, we're going to give him overtime now? All right. Okay, so we're holding up the book, and the book is what?
The Secrets of the Hebrew Bible. There you have on your screen the web address. And you can get yourself a copy.
Yeah, you can't really see the book in that thing. You need a brighter. Can you make up a brighter cover for the book? Because it goes into darkness, and that you don't want a book on darkness in such a great book.
Well, you might get a bright idea if you.
I'm all colorful. I'm yellow and red. They got the red, white, and blue behind my back. You got the blue, even the blue Israeli sign there, flag. So let's get a little bit wild here.
Okay.
Anyways, 14 nations vote for Hamas Israel ceasefire. The UNSC and U.S. vetoes it. So where does this leave you? If this was under Biden, they might have voted for the regulation there.
Yeah. Well, I look, under Biden, there are a lot of things that would have been that would have happened, or that was happening that were a disaster for Israel. So, what's your question? I mean, where does that leave us as far as?
I mean, you got Does this save your butts for a little while, or does it puts into law certain things that could have been awkward had it not been passed? Had it been passed instead of disdained?
Yeah. Look, we know what Biden did there. And so this is good for Israel. This is definitely a good thing for Israel. But you know what, what I'm concerned about, I guess I should be grateful to what's happening in the present. I'm just concerned about the future, like what's going to happen when we don't have a friendly administration. And that's really what's these things kind of highlight how much the water has to be held back. You know what I'm saying? And if we don't have a friendly administration that's doing everything in their power to help the only democracy in the Middle East, a good friend of the United States, then what will happen here? Had Biden won the election, or had those who are pulling the strings of the puppet won the election, or Kamala, who I like that little clip you played. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? And so that's what it always makes me think of those things when Israel is under attack and the United States does something to help us like that. The question is what's happening in the world, in the future.
Sure. So tell me about the yesterday's problem. Why did you have to shelter yesterday?
Yeah. Well, it's been about, I'd say on average, maybe once a week that in my area that the Houthis have been firing firing these ballistic missiles at Israel, and so we get a message on our phone actually saying the siren may go off in a few minutes, because they don't know the exact location just yet of where the sirens are going to go off, of where the missile's coming. So you get a warning on your phone saying be prepared, which is good, because if you have to run to the bathroom or something, and then if the missile actually comes towards your area a little later in its flight, then the siren goes off. It's very eerie, very loud sound, and then and you run into your shelter, in your bomb-proof shelter, and you got to stay there for 10 minutes. And we kind of
shelters without bathrooms.
And no, because it's just a room in your house, so it's actually my son's bedroom.
Okay.
It's my son's bedroom, and they're made as a shelter with reinforced concrete and steel and all this stuff.
Right.
And there's a steel rolling door that covers the window.
I see.
So once you're in there,
I thought you had to go to a community-like shelter.
No. By law, any house built after a certain year has your own shelter, has your own bomb shelter.
Wow.
So
I didn't know. So every house built in Israel in a certain period of time has shelters built into it.
Right. And the way kind of things are working, the siren would go off and you'd have to run for it. But now in the last month or so, they have this new system that you get an early alert on your phone saying you may be getting a siren, so you can be ready. And then it tells you, like in another 3-4 minutes, you might hear the siren. So it's actually a good system. So you run in there and, it's fine. It's the middle of the day, but sometimes it happens in the middle of the night, and you're kind of disoriented, and it's, sometimes hard to fall back to sleep, but what do you do?
Scoop right here. Who knew? Back in this is who knew this is a mini scoop?
Yeah,
that you have a shelter in each building built after what?
I don't know after what year, but
because we were there in 2015.
Yeah,
yeah.
Everyone had, but when you were here, there were no sirens going off. But you wouldn't even know if you walked into my son's bedroom. You wouldn't know that it's a bomb. It's a rocket proof. It's a safe.
Wow.
And it has a ventilation system, and we keep things in there like you would. You have like hurricane preparedness or certain parts of the country, tornado preparedness.
We got that lately. I'll tell you that. We almost had one last night. I'm telling you, it's crazy.
We have flashlights and we have food and water. And now after October 7th, where they use the rockets as a decoy, I always take my gun with me into the center. We all take our weapons, because I don't think that's necessarily going to happen now because we're too alert. But who knows? So
listen, it's getting that way in the United States where you're going to have to carry. I've carried a few times, and I'm still have a gun with me. Most of the time.
If I was still living in the States, especially because I wear my yarmulke wherever I go, and I would definitely be carrying. Especially when I go to Target, because when I go to Target, I'm a target.
Wait a minute.
Okay, I got something.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah, there you go. How's that for an addition to the show? All right, you like that?
I just flew in and my arm's tired. Yeah, I've been here all. I'll be here all
on stage.
What's
that?
You
need a little of that when you go on stage. You have one that doesn't work very well, like that one, and you just. But all right. FBI discovers weapons, explosives, and Nazi paraphernalia in Washington, D.C. Obama is finally exposed. Might as well be, for God's sakes.
Yeah, look.
All the harm he's done to Israel. He hates Israel. He hates Bibi Netanyahu. Put him in the back room of the White House.
Yeah.
Ignored him.
what Nazi paraphernalia is what they're finding all over Gaza. That's what the soldiers find. There's this sort of direct line between what the Nazi ideology was and what the Hamas ideology is.
Yeah.
And this idea of trying to kill Jews. And it's not just about Zionists, it's just a smokescreen. They want to kill Jews everywhere, and there's
there's a story out that the Palestinians are arming themselves to kill Hamas.
Yeah, well, not just the Palestinians. The story this week that broke was that Netanyahu is arming militias in Gaza that are fighting against Hamas.
No kidding.
It was a huge story that broke here this week. And Netanyahu acknowledged it as true.
Yeah. And since I thought they were all united, I thought they all elected Hamas unanimously since 2005.
They might have, but I guess when you regret your vote, in Gaza, in America you regret your vote, you wait for the next election. In Gaza, you just start killing people. That's kind of how it works there. So.
But this is never going to. There's no remedy for this, is there? I mean, there's no real remedy other than you're at war constantly.
Right. The only remedy is what Trump said, but I just don't think it's realistic. But that the only real remedy is a population transfer. But it's not going to happen to the extent we'd want it to. But there is the possibility of moving out terrorists and moving out. Some part of the population that is hostile. You want to live in peace, so fine, stay. It's like, in the United States, like if something like this would happen, if you had a population of 2 million people decide they hate the United States and they're going to be constantly killing people, like what would any normal country do? You either have to go in there, clean it up, and get rid of these people. What other choice is there? There's never been a good choice.
Well, you have 4 children, right?
Yeah.
You had to think about that for a while, didn't you? What were you hesitating for? Wait a minute. Where's your wife? I want her on right now. I want an explanation for that. Thank God. All right. So maybe there's 1 or 2 out there that you don't know about. But that's all right. I'm sure you were single then. But here's the thing: the population war, which is you have 5 children in these Palestinian homes, and you're only getting 2 or 3 in your homes. Eventually, you become a lower population and harder to defend yourself. Isn't that true?
That would be true, except your statistics are off because we are reproducing at a higher rate than the Palestinians.
All righty. I knew it. You know what? I knew we were good or something. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm celebrating right now.
We make good lovers.
Yes, we make good lovers and good challah bread in your case. Make the pretzel, the challah breads.
Yeah,
you ought to put a wrap around that and sell it.
It's funny because they don't sell those in Israel. I made it because they only sell them in America, and I love them.
Why don't they sell it?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but I need an industrial oven because you can only make 5 at a time, and so you make 5, and it's
you're not going to make millions of dollars and not have to actually buy something to do it.
Right. So it's only worth it if I can make a lot of dough.
Come on, come on, we got to get this thing. Boom. All right. So airlines who abandoned Israel may be shut out. So these airlines that bypassed Israel may be now on the wrong end of the political cycle here.
Yeah. Maybe I should start an airline. There's a business.
Yeah. You haven't shunned Israel yet, have you?
No.
So laser iron beam to defend Israel worked. It worked. So Trump's going to now build one in the United States.
Yeah. Not only did it work, but they also
laser iron beam.
There was a story in the paper here. saying we may not have to have too many sirens anymore because it works so fast that the moment the rocket is launched, they could literally shoot it down. And then if they miss it, they have multiple chances in order to hit it. But if they knock it down, like in the first 5 seconds, there won't be a siren in Israel, which that's a game changer.
So is it? Do you have it now, or is it just?
It's operational. It's totally operational.
Wow.
So successful.
So what about the call that you got the other day? Why?
Because they haven't built enough units, and like it's operational. It's not the only thing they're using.
Okay,
but it is working. But in the future, this will probably replace the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome costs $50,000 every time you fire it. The laser costs like $2-3. It's nothing. So
there's been a spate. I don't know if that's a word or not of reports of Israel killing innocents by the BBC. But usually they're cleared. I mean, but it's propaganda that's egging the world on to be anti-Semitic.
Yeah, well, they actually retracted it. The Washington Post, they retracted the story because it wasn't true. But
where'd they get the story from?
What's that?
Where'd they get the story from? Was that the BBC?
No, from Hamas. They got it from Hamas. Okay. And often how it works in the media is that if the story is about anything but Israel, they spend time fact checking and seeing if it's true. But when it's about Israel, they immediately accept it as true. Like at the beginning of the war, they said we bombed a hospital and killed 800 people, or whatever it was. And it wasn't true. And it turns out it wasn't true. And they had to retract it. But with Israel, somehow they run every story. Think about what happened with Biden's son, his computer. Right? And, we have to verify. We have to. But if it was Israel, they would immediately run the story. If it was Trump, they'd run the story right away.
They all lied about that. I mean, they outright lied, and they had 51 three-letter offices of like CIA and FBI, and all these people testified that this is a false item, right? And they all lied about it.
Right.
See replications for those.
Right. It's the same thing. You get to a point where you realize that your bias is showing, and the media is biased, and people forget that the media is a business. CBS, ABC, it's all money driven, and they have to have stories that are going to get viewership, and the viewership gets advertisers, and that's
their problem is they have ignored the majority of the people in this country who are now leaning to the right, and so we don't watch that stuff anymore.
Exactly.
So they've got to go back to their old customers who they're losing all the time.
That's
now because they're not believable. They're just
Fox
not
News, and Newsmax, alternative media like you and all over the internet, because they're just not believable. And so people are like, okay, I'll get my news elsewhere. I grew up in the era, and I'm sure you remember Walter Cronkite. He was very trustworthy. People trusted him. And
I never trusted him.
I don't know if it was true or not, but the evening news, people turned on the evening news, and there was a level of trust. Looking back, who knows? But
did they ever tell us how Kennedy was killed?
Yeah,
seriously.
It took a while for people started to realize.
And
there's alternative. The downside is that a lot of the alternative media, a lot of it's fake news. You see, I see it even in sports. I see all these things posted. Things that the coach of the Knicks who was fired, things he said after, and they have these AI driven fake things. And I'm like watching. I'm like, there's no way he said that.
That's an interesting subject. I'm about ready to interview somebody, and a couple of my questions now are coming from AI.
Yeah,
and but they're also so biased. It's amazing.
Yeah, I saw a video.
A
video of the Knicks coach.
Yeah, I know.
He made him say, it said, it would be worth quitting basketball forever just not to coach Jalen Brunson again. Now, he never said that.
What?
But they took AI and they took an image, and it really looks like a press conference. It looks like he's saying it. And I watch it, and I doubled. It took me a second to realize. But if you look at the comments, like 7,000 comments.
He was the only person that really believed in this guy. I mean, really believed in him.
1% of the comments said this is fake. It's AI driven.
Yeah, it has to be.
Everyone else thought it was true.
Okay, so Trump and Musk, they're having a big argument.
Yeah.
You think that's fake?
Do I think they're staging it? I mean,
everybody seems to think that. I don't think that myself, but I think they're going to get together and they're going to solve it, though.
I can't see what would be in it for either. I mean, the Tesla stock dropped 15% yesterday.
I know. Well, it's up today, but still.
Oh yeah, it was a buying opportunity yesterday.
Did you buy any?
No, I don't have any money, but
yeah. Tell us about that. So the idea this is not a happy thing here. IDF retrieves the bodies of hostages Judith Weinstein and Haggai, her husband.
Yeah.
Judith Weinstein Haggai and her husband Gadi Haggai from Khan Yunis. Now, these people have been dead since probably the 10/7/23. Now, why are they being held as hostage?
Yeah, well, they released a phone call that Judith had made on October 7th, asking for help, calling to like our 911, saying that her husband is dead and she's being attacked by terrorists. And that was the last call we had. Wow. So we don't know when she was killed, but he was definitely dead and taken as hostage. They took lots of dead bodies as hostages because they know that for Israel, for Jewish people, burying someone is such an important part of our tradition and such a holy part that we would do anything to get those bodies back. Maybe one step less than a living hostage, but still. So they took dead bodies, they took whatever they could. And they were both American citizens also.
So when is the end of the war going to be? This war is spreading out. And, you got guys dying here still?
My son is home from Gaza. So I asked him, first of all, he was in Khan Yunis. He was fighting. That's exactly where he was fighting. He said it's taking a long time now because they're literally going house to house to house, and they're in neighborhoods that they were not in before. And when you go house to house, you have to be extremely careful because so much of it is, he says almost every house is booby trapped.
Yeah. So
the Army Corps of Engineers has to go in and it's very, very slow but difficult work. And it's just, he said, we're making a lot of progress.
Yeah. Are they finding anything?
I mean, nothing so much to report, but obviously they found these two bodies, which was that was in Khan Yunis. That
wasn't given back to you. That was taken by Israel, right? Those bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, in part of these operations in Gaza, part of it is the hunt for hostages. And so if we have to go to every single house in Gaza and every tunnel, we will, but it's going to take, it's very slow going.
You're not going to get much help, are you?
We're not getting much help from anyone. So,
So how about, you got any more rabbi rants or scoops?
No, but I am coming to the States with 12 widows on June 29th. We're bringing them on a respite trip. We'll be in New York. We'll be in Michigan for almost 2 weeks and flying in 3 weeks, something like that. So should be exciting.
Well, that's great. Hey, other than Dave Weinbaum Show, where can people find and contribute and buy your book?
Yeah, well, they can get my book. There it is, secretsofthehebrewbible.org. You can get yourself a copy, and you can go to our site, israelalliance.org, or our Facebook page. You see it up on the screen, Israel Alliance, after the facebook.com.
Hey, did you hear about the self-service dentist? He tells his patients, brace yourselves. Ta-da, boom. All right, Rabbi Moshe Rothschild. I don't know. Do you like that or the I'm cutting some of my help out there. I got to save some money too. And so I'm using the bada boom thing here. And what do you think? Is that better than hearing applause or what?
I like it. I like the bada boom. I feel
Bada
like
boom. All right. We're
Yeah,
going to get all sorts of bada booms.
Yeah.
Different ones. All right.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, well, it'll help you in your comedy act.
Yeah.
All right. Shabbat shalom, my friend. Hi to all the family.
Thanks. Shabbat shalom.
Bye. All right. Now, one for the road. And commercial time.
Your home is your castle. You don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments. That's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day. Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Rolla, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our #1 goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
Honey, what are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing?
It looks like you're filling up a swimming pool.
Yep, I'm filling up a swimming pool.
In our living room?
How else am I going to watch the game and stay cool?
If your AC is on the fritz, call Hartley's Climate Control. Hartley's is the area's best in HVAC repairs, installs, and maintenance. Knowledgeable, honest, and dependable. Serving Rolla and the surrounding areas for commercial or residential needs. Hartley's Climate Control. Community born, community raised, community serving.
Call Hartley's Climate Control today at 573-368-3163.
Never be too coy to tell your friends and family about koi sushi and hibachi. Celebrate the best Chinese-Japanese restaurant in the Midwest. Call 573-426-5551 to make a reservation or order takeout. Locally owned, 1808 North Bishop, Rolla, Missouri.
We can sum up McDonald's new crispy chicken sandwich in one word. Crispy, but also juicy and tender. Okay, it's crispy, juicy, tender, all one word. But then, also pickle. Oh, and potato bun, which is 2 words. Okay, we can't sum up our new crispy chicken sandwich in one word, so you'll just have to try it to understand it. Order ahead on the McDonald's app at participating McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Merrill's Quarry and Asphalt, 40 years serving cities, counties, and everyday businesses with driveways for people who live and work in our little piece of heaven right smack dab in the middle of America. Call 573-578-9101 for your free estimate of rocking, rolling, paving, driveways, sealing, and striping too. That's 573-578-9101 for your free estimate.
Your home is your castle. You don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments. That's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day. Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Rolla, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our #1 goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
At your locally owned Price Chopper, our standards are high because we know yours are. See for yourself what an incredible fresh selection of grocery items we have in store. Talk to our expert meat associates about what you're looking for. They're happy to meet any special requests like custom cuts, or see our expert produce associates on how to pick out the best fruits and vegetables. Quality in the deli means fresh, full flavor, and always delicious. If you're craving fresh, baked goodness, we have that too. You can expect the best selection and the best value while interacting with our friendly and knowledgeable employees. You can find what you're looking for fast and easily at the best prices at Price Chopper. Fresh savings every day. A-Car Real Estate, where experience matters. 532 million sold since 2003, the #1 sales volume in Phelps County. As a client for decades, I can say they are the best in mid-Missouri. Call 573-368-7355. That's 573-368-7355 for the best real estate experience you'll ever have.
Gotta reach 'em, see it right now.
Insurance going up like crazy. Daniel and Henry Insurance is one of the largest private insurance companies in the world. Richard Boyette, 314-444-5011. He's my guy at Daniel and Henry for 10 years. Business or personal, call Richard at 314-444-5011. He's the best.
At Town & Country Bank, we've got all the perks of a national bank, like online banking, quick loan approval, and you can deposit your check from your phone. But that's not why our customers love us. They love us because we still offer hometown customer service. Stop by one of our 2 Rolla locations and let our friendly team remind you how special hometown banking can be. We're locally owned and will take the time to understand your needs. Smart, friendly solutions. Town & Country Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
I don't know if you saw Ed Martin on the Maria Bartiromo show a week or so ago.
I believe I did. Yeah.
He's now the weaponization czar in the Justice Department, investigating the weaponization of the Justice Department under Biden. And he said that he's going to investigate, do an open and transparent investigation of all the people that set this up, all the people that made a decision early on that they were going to make January 6th the event to take over the government, not from our side, but from their side. And that he's going to prosecute the ones that he can prosecute, and he's going to out and shame the ones that he can't prosecute. And then he's going to see about compensating the J6ers.
Is he in cooperation with the DOJ, Bondi? How about the FBI cash? And how about all these the little hiding place apparently in the FBI that they found?
Yeah, and well, the answer to the question is that Ed Martin is in the Justice Department now. He's been given the power and the jurisdiction to investigate all the weaponization of government under the Biden administration, wherever it is. I mean, he's got kind of carte blanche, is my understanding, to reach into all the different places, where there was corruption, where there was weaponization. I'm hoping that he's going to go into the issues where it's a big thing for me back when I was running for Senate, and that was a treason committed by Nancy Pelosi and Mark Milley. And I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
But on January 5th, Pelosi calls up Mark Milley and says, he's crazy, don't you? Meaning Trump. And Milley says, yes. And then Milley says that if Trump is going to go to war with China, he'll warn the Chinese first.
Why isn't there a big story about Milley's going to the Chinese and then making people swear that they'll go to him for any problems and not the president? That is clear treason. Am I wrong? Hey, call the show 573-578-2700 and get it off your chest. Let's talk. It's a talk show. Do we have any new clips per se?
Or comments?
Yeah. Comments. Okay, Patricia Odin Maxwell, the official pastor to the Dave Weinbaum Show. Rabbi Patsy and I was really praying for you and your family when we heard about you having to go to your safe place again. Bless your hearts. Well, bless your heart for doing that, Patricia. Rabbi, bring some of your bread to your next visit to see us at CCCL. That's, what does that stand for?
That is City of Light and Life Ministries. Yep.
Okay. And speaking of which, my wife is now, come on, do this on camera. Show everybody how colorful that is. She's eating a cupcake, and it's green. Anybody eat green cupcakes, you got to watch them. All right, and that's it on that?
Yep.
Okay. So, there's some studies that are going on now that say that men have lost like 50%. They've lost a lot of testosterone. I don't know if it's 50%, but from the last 50 years, men have lost testosterone. I wonder about that. Is that true? And why is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody this week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true of all the population worldwide, but
well, women don't have a lot
of
testosterone except for you, maybe.
Anyway, what I was saying was I talked to somebody this week, and after he had COVID, he felt like absolute hell.
Oh,
for
okay.
like the next 3 years. And you really have to press hard to get them to test your hormones. But he finally got it tested, and he was really, really low on testosterone, and he was under 40, so he should still be pretty high up there.
Yeah.
So he started to take hormone supplements, and he's feeling much better now. So I didn't ask if he already had
that's
family
very
or not.
interesting because they're which ones do you take? Though they got these commercials.
We knew the shots of.
I've been taking injections for about the last year because
Yeah.
I had mine tested and I was below 200. And the doctor,
225 to 900, I believe, is
that's considered normal. My doctor says she wanted me to be around 700 to 800 minimum.
Wow.
Now she claims that men in like ancient Roman times, like in Athens and those times like that, when they worked all day and they learned how to fight and they were fighting battles and all that.
Yeah.
Those guys were pumping anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000.
So there,
and
wow.
she's sold on that. What has really killed that is our food, the way they manufacture it, and what they add to it.
And the chemicals coming down from all of the stuff in the sky they're spraying. That all affects.
What about the vaccines? Have they been?
Yes.
So have they been doing it too?
They have messed with
because
everybody's
we've got an
hormones.
expert on vaccines coming up.
So I'm fortunate.
This should be really interesting, guys. You're going for a treat, I think.
It's decreased fertility on both sexes.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I wouldn't know about the vaccines affecting me because I didn't take them. So, yeah.
You didn't take what?
The vaccines.
Oh, you take? Well,
Yeah.
neither did I.
So apparently it can be a
Neither did
COVID
she.
long-term after effect as well as an
well,
effect of the
okay.
vaccine.
So not only can it kill you, it can get men to where they don't want to fight back.
And it could. I'm just gonna put this out
and
there.
where women don't have as many babies,
And
that has a lot to do with it.
Could it also explain why there are more men now who seem to swing more to the feminine side?
There
we'll just
we
put
go.
it that way.
And ergo, the problem the Democrats have with men, because men now are just not as aggressive as they used to be, and now they're hard. They're very hard to bring back, especially the manly men.
So now these days, if you have somebody who is a manly man, as all the men used to be, you're considered an extremist now.
Not all men, but a bigger majority than than
Toxic masculinity.
Toxic,
right?
Masculinity.
Because men can't be what men are supposed to be.
So what do they have to say to the men? They've got nothing. Nothing. There's no way.
So then why are they spending $20 million to do a study?
Because they're stupid. I mean, it's
It's
only
almost comical.
It is telling them that because these men are wondering. A lot of men are wondering what happened to the Democratic Party. We're not there yet. I mean, and the Democratic Party is now wanting to be tough. They want to look tough. You've got the Buttigieg going on with a beard, sounding like a trucker, instead of being pregnant and having giving milk to his child through a fake breast.
There's nothing
My
about Buttigieg that says masculine to me. I'll just leave it at that.
He tried it. It was a little gruff, and had a beard. And all
Just
that
because
stuff.
suddenly you have a beard and
Yeah.
you're talking with your voice a little lower.
Same thing with Swalwell. He's doing the same stuff.
Isn't it funny how all of a sudden they're trying to adjust and show themselves to be the very thing that they used to speak out against?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling because that's all they have. They got to find a way to lie back into the population because it's not working right now.
And this is where,
and I don't know how. I don't. What would I do if I was in their shape? I tell you what I do. I'd switch away from the Democrats as soon as possible and get with the people that understand there's only two genders.
the funny thing is, and I've had to point this out, especially to some people that I work with, in particular men. This is mainly to them, who will say, well, I don't like Trump because of how he talks to people. And I'm like, I've heard you say some of the most foul things I've ever heard in my life, and now you're going to criticize him for how he speaks? Really? We're going to go there? Because that's called hypocritical.
Did you get into a fight? It sounds like you're
no, they know better not.
Did you throw a punch? Come on.
I don't have to. They know I'm not the kind of guy that you want to mess with.
I used to get into a lot of fights when I was a kid. I still think I have some testosterone. Do you think I have testosterone, honey? Of course, not where it's necessary, maybe. Don't answer that question.
I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you could get tested yourself.
Yes, okay. I could probably do that.
Yes.
But I don't trust doctors enough to test me. I don't trust them. I really don't. After the pandemic, for sure, I know I don't trust them. And we're going to come up with Dr. J.K. Hasson, and she's going to tell us all they did, all Pfizer did, and all the BS about the VAERS report. My God, did they snooker us? And China has a lot to do with this too. Obviously, it came out of the Hasson, Wasan or Hasson Wuhan lab, right? And who made a fortune off of that? Fauci and his buddies. And who's fighting it?
A lot of people made money on that one.
J.K. Hasson and her friend Peter McCullough, who she did an interview with. Anyways, and we're going to talk about another gal who got me that interview, and that was Leah Santos, and she's along with that group, and she took them on, and Dr. J.K. there it is, and Leah Stagnos. Okay, so we're back on the show, and in the last decade, there was an 893% increase in anti-Semitism, and it's implicated by this the murders in D.C. of people from the Israeli office there, and this Egyptian nut in Denver who couldn't get a gun and is an illegal alien, but he couldn't get a gun because of that, screaming against the Jews and trying to throw Molotov cocktails, which he did successfully, against the Jews who were like trying to get the hostages back and demonstrating for that. And notable about that was on the building that they were demonstrating under, it had a Palestinian flag. The state of Denver, the state of Colorado had a flag on one of their buildings. Isn't that incredible? And you wonder why this is happening? It's
like they're trying to egg it on.
Exactly. So Alaska is now open up for drilling, and so I saw the price of. I've been watching the price of gas. Who doesn't watch that? It went down a penny. In this time, it's $2.87 instead of $2.88.9. Wow, I feel rich, don't you?
It's amazing how quick it is to go up and how slow it is to go back down.
Yeah, what the hell's going on here? Is there a cabal here? Are they all the same? They're all calling each other every day, or what? That's wrong. Come on now. It's let's get those prices down. All right, you're telling me, and me. I've got to watch it too because I can't get too expensive in the food business. Eggs are down, that's for sure. So Tampon Tim Walsh, he's telling Democrats, you got to get meaner to Trump. I don't think he spoke it in that kind of voice, but what a wuss this guy is.
Instead of Tampon Tim, he looks just like Don Rickles.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does. When he was in that debate with Vance,
yeah,
every time he had to start thinking, I thought he's going to have an aneurysm. His whole face, including the top of his head, would go bright red.
Yeah.
You could tell he was struggling just to formulate a sentence. It was almost like watching Biden, but I mean, he was a little better than that, but not a whole lot.
Who didn't get trashed by these? I mean, Trump, did didn't he ever debate Kamala? I thought he did.
I think once, because they removed Biden so late in the campaign.
Yeah. And then he had interviews where they would steal stuff from him and drop it.
Alter it, yeah.
They actually alter it with who he's suing, I think CBS.
Well, they did the same thing with what he said on January 6th that day.
Well, of course.
And made it sound like he told him,
well, this is
go invade the Capitol. I watched it live. That's not what he said.
This is right up our quest to have the 1/6 thing exposed. Hello, play another 2 clips, please.
Then he calls in all his chiefs and makes them swear allegiance to him, Mark Milley, not the president of the United States. So they will only take commands from him, make them swear on their oath to only obey him, that's a coup, that's treason. And that's something that people, hang on the end of a rope for.
Yeah. So why is Pete Hegseth, and I don't know if this is true or not after what you've said, but why did they just take away like one of his stars or something like that as a general?
Well, once again, no offense to Mr. Hegseth, who I bet and I like.
You mean he actually did this?
He was a talk show host. What he's planning on doing?
Hey, watch it.
I know, me too.
Yeah, that's right. This is yourself,
We're all good for a lawyer. But then he says he's going to take a star and dock him on his retirement pay. Well, holy crap! I dock him on his retirement by terminating him.
Is she there? Is your wife there?
She's here.
What is? Come on, get out!
She's here, and she's here in voice only because she doesn't think she's beautiful enough today to be on television.
Oh, come on, man! You're too cute for him, even.
Tell me about it.
Come on. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are your core legal arguments you plan to use under the 4th and 6th Amendments? I got that straight from Grok, by the way.
Yeah, I've got more than the 4th and the 6th. I was being interviewed by a CBS affiliate yesterday. They said, so what damages did your January 6th defendants suffer? Other than, having the doors kicked in and their houses flashbanged and having their 4-year-old children, covered with laser dots from machine gun sights, other than having their 15-year-old daughters having to dress and undress instead of in front of 15 FBI agents. Other than those little things, they were First Amendment violations because everybody had all their communication equipment taken from them. They were prohibited from accessing the internet. They were prohibited from talking to other J6 defendants. They were prohibited from using, my favorite one was a 20-year police officer who is just charged with trespass. They told him that if he used any cell phones other than his own personal cell phone to communicate, he would go to prison for 17 years. And then they confiscated his cell phone.
So how does AI avoid this? I mean, they avoid this. They said, well, most of the people believe that, like 65% believe that this was an insurrection by the Trump people. And it's provable that it isn't, even if you don't know that this guy is a lawyer. Okay? It's provable. You see cops letting people into the building. Okay? And for that, that's a crime. They're charging people with a crime for being in there for 6 seconds. They're charging people with crimes that weren't even in the building and didn't do anything wrong.
AKA Jeff and Ryan Zink.
That's right.
Yep.
You got it. And you got a lawyer, Mark McCloskey, along with Peter Tickton, who is Trump's best friend, for goodness sakes. They're on it. And yet it doesn't seem to register in AI. So it's incredible. Anyways, we have our next person on the show, and this he looks like he's got a mean look on his face. I'll tell you what, he does, and we're going to talk about that a little bit because this guy's a paisan. He's a paisan pizza lover. Liz Cheney, enemy. See there, enemy.
Okay, okay.
You gotta wait. You gotta wait. You just can't interrupt
You
me.
get it wrong most times. So.
Before I say this is your introduction, put him down. Don't let him talk during this. And he's an excellent writer, and he is a Wyoming hero. He's saving the state. Okay.
Well,
please welcome Chris Adamo. Okay, you can put his. All right, good.
You used to play music for me.
Well, you know what? You get tagged with music. I play music for everybody. Tagged with these notices that somehow they own the song, and then then they got lawyers calling you.
Oh,
I tell you what, it's a tough world in here. And I mean, I had lawyers threatening to sue me, and just they wanted to settle with me, and I kept lowballing him, and finally they gave up. But it did cost me some legal fees, so what the hell? Anyways, when should the rights of just fertilized babies be anointed with human rights and dignity?
The minute we know it's a human being, which is
how do we know?
At conception.
Conception.
Now, the truth is that it may be these days, difficult to figure out exactly when that happens. But the point is that you go into the doctor's office, and the doctor can't save every patient that ever comes in there. That's just a fact of being a doctor. However, the doctor should not, under any circumstances, have an agenda of killing off one or more of the patients that come into his room. And so, it's like they say, well, can you abort the baby to save the life of the mother? You try to save them both.
Right.
Number one. Number two, that's also a very false scenario, because you want to save the mother if she's especially in a late-term pregnancy. Well, we got to save the mother, so we got to kill the baby. No, you don't. If you want to save the mother, you do a cesarean, because late-term abortions are like 2 and 3 day processes. They're really, they don't tell you this, but they're really dragged out, and they're a risk to the mother. So the only reason you do a late-term abortion is because you want a dead baby, because you don't want to deal with the baby. So there's no excuse for late-term abortions. No excuse. You can do a cesarean, save the mother, maybe save the baby.
And and I can't emphasize this any more than I usually do, but abortions are half female.
Yeah.
I mean, female. You're killing females.
You're killing the female, you're killing one female, you're exploiting the other, because the number one reason for women to have abortions, the number one reason is because the man that got her pregnant doesn't want to be bothered with the responsibility of raising a child. So what you're doing is you're killing the child, which may be a male or a female, as you say, and you're turning the mother into a sexual play toy and nothing more. Because if she happens to be an actual mother who produces a baby, which is one of the glories of motherhood, if she actually does that, then the guy says, no, what we're going to do is we're going to leave her with this emotional and possibly even physical scar that we're going to get rid of the baby. And then I can just keep using her the way I want for whatever. And that doesn't elevate women. It totally demeans them. And if you think I'm lying about that, look at what's happened to women in society since abortion became so popularized. They may think they have more jobs and careers, but you look at the trafficking, you look at the exploitation.
Right. And what happens when they get their job and they're making a lot of money, and then they're suddenly 40.
Yep.
And above, and the market for marrying is not as good.
The suicide rate among women who've had abortions is significantly higher than the general populace, significantly, and there's a reason for that.
Where can you find that? Where people will say you don't have any facts about that?
Well,
there are, aren't there?
There absolutely are. Now, for starters, and I'd love to talk all day about what you just said. You don't have any facts, because those people are saying, I don't want to hear it. Okay, they don't want facts; they just want to
Right.
dispute the facts. Okay, but there are sites out there. I can give you two of them right off the top of my head. Center for Bioethical Reform. They're excellent pro-life site. They're very powerful. Then there's the White Rose Resistance, and let me tell you about White Rose Resistance in a minute. And the third one is lifenews.com. Okay, you can get all kinds of information from these sites. Now let's talk about White Rose Resistance because it's an excellent site. Seth Gruber, just a warrior for pro-life, is the head of this site. And White Rose Resistance is based on an incident out of Nazi Germany, and it had to do with a young lady. And excuse me, I've forgotten her name, but she was a Christian lady, like a teenager, and she and her brother had formed this organization called the White Rose Resistance to resist the Nazis because they could see that what the Nazis were doing was wrong. Rest of society's, clouding it in euphemism. It's like, oh, it's a choice. It's this, it's that. It's a final solution. Remember that one. And she and her brother said no, and they fought it, and they actually ended up being caught and were executed for taking that stand. So Seth Gruber has taken their role and the model that they showed, and he's used that to as the banner for his group, which is all about pro-life. It's the White Rose Resistance. Check it out.
Okay. Yeah, you were also supposed to get me the contact for governor race in Illinois.
Oh, he hasn't called you yet? His
No.
name is Joe Severino, and he's on Twitter. I'll get on the phone with him.
Well, maybe I thought it could have been my fault because you get so many calls every day that are just fake calls from all sorts of different numbers.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Give me his number.
I'll get you his number. Yep,
Okay.
and that's boy. We could talk all day about that. The
Get
swamp
that idiot out of there, that Hyatt idiot, Pritzker.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Joe Severino, you couldn't get further from being the opposite of Pritzker. The swamp in Illinois hates this guy. They've literally they've sent under false pretenses, they sent the cops to his door a couple of times to try and intimidate him. And this is the quote unquote Republican swamp, okay? Because the Republican swamp in Illinois is in the hip pocket of the Democrat swamp. This is how they operate. Well, this is how corruption operates everywhere.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
Chicago has a huge history of corruption. I mean, it used to be somewhat familiar kind of corruption. It was the Daley years, and he was friends with people.
Tammany Hall was Chicago, absolutely.
I thought
Illinois,
that was New York, wasn't it? Tammany Hall.
I'll have to check that. I was pretty sure it was Chicago. However, Chicago, let's just say that they perfected it.
Whose word of the day? Tammany Hall.
And
then
Chicago
or New York.
Don't forget what state elected Obama as their senator. Okay, Illinois, the Chicago area is the sewer of the sewer. But here's the thing that you have in Illinois. You have this deep blue sewer cesspool, this nightmare, and they've got all the squalor and all the crime and everything to prove it. And yet what you have around that area, the whole rest of the state is heartland America. Yeah. I've gone through Southern Illinois and there's Trump signs everywhere. And this is America, and they're dominated by that state capital. Sure. But the rest of the state is actually Midwest America, down to earth people, and this is the people that Joe Severino is reaching out to.
All right, well, I'll be happy to talk to the guy.
Okay, I'll send you his contact info, and you give him a call.
So if you think often of true justice, nobility, what's right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent. Is that praiseworthy of a wasted life? I don't know what the hell I'm right there. Next question.
Okay.
Disney is down, okay? The St. Louis Cardinals are having a good year, yet they can't draw a decent crowd. Nobody buys Bud Light anymore. Why is this?
Well, and this is a great segue into lots of other things we got going on. If you get out there and you have made your name on one image. Okay, let's just say, I mean, Dave Weinbaum is popular because Dave Weinbaum speaks the conservative message and people love how he does it. And they'll even put up with his bad jokes, but they love Dave Weinbaum. Okay,
You had to throw
now
that in there, didn't you?
I had to throw that in there. I couldn't resist
Hey,
it. Now,
give me. All right, just a minute. That deserves a response. Give me Eddie. All right,
What do you know from funny, you bastard?
and then hit the other one. There you go. You even got a bada boop there. Okay, you deserve that.
So, but if you suddenly decide that it's really all about you because, well, people don't care what you say, they just think you're such a great guy, they just want to sit there and make eyes at you for 3 hours, and you start approaching it that way, your show is going to disappear. What they want from you and what they get from you is quality conservative commentary. Okay, and if you
with major characters like yourself.
I'll take it. So, but the point is that if you, I'll give you a name here. Now, I'm not going to do a trivia question on you, but I will tell you, most people right now, most people will not remember this name, even though I can tell you that back when the entire nation hung on this name because it was so important. The name is Scott Brown. Okay, now back in 2010. You remember him, good. Okay, you're one of the few, and that's because you're
politically. This guy in the pickup truck that had garbage on his
that's
floor.
Scott Brown. Okay, typically, people don't remember him. He was, though, in 2010 because he was running as the Republican outsider. He was running for the Ted Kennedy seat in the Senate, and the whole purpose, the whole campaign platform he had is we're going to return the Senate to the people. We're going to. But the big issue, his number one issue is we're going to stop this nightmare, this socialist nightmare called Obamacare. Yeah. And that one vote could have turned the whole thing. Of course, he got in on that premise, but the Obama crowd, of course, they played dirty tricks. They flipped it around and they got past that. But he did get in on that premise. And he was going to stop Obamacare.
That was Massachusetts, wasn't it?
That was Massachusetts. A Republican got in Massachusetts stopping socialism. Okay. Here's the problem, though. He got in, and because the whole nation had been so focused on him, and I remember the day he got elected was like, wow, this is a huge deal. He started thinking it was all about him. That's the biggest pitfall that any of us can fall into. It's all about me. So he goes to Washington and he thinks, well, I must be just the greatest thing since sliced bread. And he goes down there, and the first thing he does, instead of saying, I was elected for this purpose, I better carry this torch, he said, I'm just going to be the most popular guy in the world. I can get elected as a Republican in Massachusetts. I might be the next president. I'm going to broaden the base. I'm going to reach out to the opposition because it's all about me. He lost the very next election, which is only about 2-3 years later. He lost that. He moved to Connecticut. He tried to run again. He lost that. He disappeared from the political scene, all because he had fallen into that attitude of it's all about me. Okay. Anytime a political player or anybody else does this, they lose. It's just that simple because no, it's not all about you.
Right. That's a very good segment there. And we got upcoming is Bill Hardwick. I know you know about him, right?
Oh yeah.
I hope you watch him. We got a fundraiser going on June the 30th here at the Oak Meadow Country Club at 5 p.m. And I'm working on getting McDonald's food there. Too bad I couldn't get any pizza from you because you're too cheap. But that's all right. Okay.
I almost thought of saying that. I thought, no, I'm not going to say that to Dave. I'll give him a pass today. But you went ahead and said it, so go ahead.
All right. So I want to hear what he has to say about that too, because he gave a speech at the Congress of Missouri, and he gave a speech that was so good they actually reversed or put on the ballot to reverse Amendment 3 here.
That's excellent.
I mean, and he
he's a hero.
He did it. He had nothing written. I mean, he just made the speech up. It was about 2.5 minutes. So if you listen to, I'm going to play it when he's on. All right.
Okay.
You got a song I can play for you?
You have a song you can use?
Yeah.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I like
song or a speech I can play for you or something?
Oh no, probably not. I haven't given that many speeches, and none of them are recorded, so I hide the evidence.
You
But
had- yeah.
but
Well,
if
no,
you're
that's
listening,
you can't
Bill,
do that. You got to go and spill what's right.
absolutely. No, that's why I get on here and I talk with you and put up off all the bad jokes and everything. Now, Bill, if you're listening,
Bad jokes.
congratulations on that speech. Yes, you're a hero. Yes, we appreciate it. It's about the issue, and you did a great job. It's not about we all just want to put up pictures of Bill Hardwick in our house, and of course he knows that. I know Bill; he knows that. But it's such an easy snare for them to fall into, and the minute they do, it turns into a.
I don't
total,
see him doing that. I don't see him doing that because he takes when he goes against Amendment 3, and he's got 71% of the population that voted for him, and they vote in Amendment 3. He's already taken a risk, saying, "Really? I mean, if I do this, they might boot me out."
Well, there's two things driving Bill in this case. Number one is he's going to do what's right.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you get into office and you start trying to do what's pragmatic, you can be manipulated and corralled into anything they want. But when you say, you know what, here's the principle of this situation, I'm going to do what's right.
Yeah.
You don't look at the polls and things like that. Number two, if you look at if you do want to look at the poll on Amendment 3, the massive amount of out-of-state money that came in to not promote the realities of Amendment 3, but to mask it in all sorts of fraudulent terms and to promote something that Missouri really didn't want. And yeah, they got away with it barely. Okay. If the Amendment 3 crowd had said, here's what it really is, it wouldn't have passed. So they don't do that. They have this total misinformation campaign, big money. I saw all kinds of things, these heart-wrenching civil rights stories and every other kind of nonsense that had nothing to do with killing unborn babies. But that was how they're going to promote Amendment 3. And so,
yeah,
I'm not suggesting you be pragmatic. I'm just saying that standing for life in red state Missouri is not only the right thing to do, but it's also something that will promote a person of principle.
So 17 years and $4 billion, and California has failed to build its train complex. What should happen?
Well, we need to find out where that 17 billion went, and every single individual who siphoned off of it, every bureaucrat who expanded their department to actually accomplish nothing needs to be held personally accountable. And let me underline the personally. Every time, and I've seen some lawsuits and stuff in this past week that were settled against wayward school districts and things like that. Every time you have a public office that cheats the public and they're fined for it, guess who pays the fine? The public. It's the biggest scam in the world.
Yeah.
And Congress actually, and they may even still have it in place, but during the whole time Pelosi was Speaker, Congress had a slush fund to pay off these people that have been abused, sexually abused, and otherwise by wayward congressmen. They had a slush fund to pay those bills. Okay, so guess what the slush fund is? The slush fund is you and me. So we go after these people.
We're paying them to get them off the hook.
Exactly. And so if you have a school board that abuses a child by bringing trannies into the classroom and they get sued, and the lawsuit is in the favor of the parents. First of all, those people ought to be in jail because bringing trannies into the classroom is equivalent of aiding and abetting a child predator. But they get sued, a civil liability, and the public has to pay the parents. Now, the parents deserve a settlement on that because of the abuse that their kids suffered, but it's not the rest of us that should do that. It's those people who abuse that position, that official position.
Sure. So what's your take on the Elon and Trump screaming match? It's a screaming match. They're yelling at each other.
Well, I tell you what, and that was actually the whole reason I researched that Scott Brown thing this morning to bring that to you. So what you have here is very unfortunate. What you've got is the richest man in the world in competition with the most powerful man in the world. And unfortunately, both of them got to where they are in life by being very strong personalities. Yeah. And now there's this rift between them. And I'm not sure. I've actually heard people say that
fake. Do you?
There's a possibility of that. I've heard that, and it would be a great encouragement to me if it was.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a legitimate problem there. I take the problem personally. I take it all the way back to the Congress, and they're both reacting to that, but taking it out on each other. If that's what they're actually doing, because I'd love to find out that this was a WWF type staged event, because this is very unfortunate for all of us. Both of them, both of them need to understand that the big picture is about the future of America. It's not about either one. And if they can rise to the occasion and do that, and they both have been absolute heroes in their own way. They both just done some amazing things for the country, and for them now to clash on this and to do it so publicly, I think is only going to harm not only each of them personally, but America on the whole. And if they could come to that realization, it would be better for them, and it would be better for America.
What's going on in Russia with the attacks now that Russia is doing upon Ukraine, because Ukraine nailed their butts with some placed explosive materials by some of their nuclear planes?
Yeah, if you get onto X or on Facebook and you look at the posts of General Michael Flynn, and he's an expert on all these things. He is working as hard as he can to get the word out, and his goal literally is to stop World War III from happening.
Yeah.
That's the stakes that we're in right now. Now, why is this happening? I would have to say you had a bunch of leftist globalists set up a bunch of dominoes that are starting to tumble. This reminds me very much of World War I, where you had all these pieces set in place to where all of a sudden one day they assassinate Archduke Ferdinand, and all of Europe is at war over this one event. And we've got to be very careful now, because as many people as died in World War I, that would be a drop in the bucket compared to what would happen if this breaks loose now. There is no
Well, they have it on record now. They're saying China is sending drones to Russia.
Escalation.
Yeah, it's escalation, right?
And we have U.S. Rogue politicians. I'm thinking Lindsey Graham, Mike Pompeo, and others that going over to Ukraine, and all they can possibly do. You get a big wig. If the governor of Missouri was to show up on the Dave Weinbaum Show, hey, I got the governor on my show, and all of a sudden it pumps you up, right? We send these envoys over there to Ukraine, and Zelensky, who's obviously between being unstable, he's an egomaniac. All of a sudden he feels more important. Okay, so now we have rogue politicians going over there and doing this, and rather than
his country was attacked. I mean, it was attacked by and it was attacked with permission from one Joe Biden, saying, well, if you're going to make this, make it a short one, make it a short attack. You know what?
Again, there's so much to that situation, because we can go back. Why was it attacked? Who's trying to claim what land from when? We can go back as far as we want, and it's complicated. Both sides have lost many lives. The leaders don't seem to care. It's the guy on the street that they grab, and I don't know if you've seen how they recruit people in Ukraine. They send out a truck full of thugs, and they go out and they see somebody walking down the street, and they say, "You're the right size," and they grab him and throw him in the truck. Now he's a recruit. Okay, now he goes out and gets sent out to be shot. Okay, and there were protests in Russia against the war, which that never happened in Russia. In the past. The point is, nobody wants this. You got this these egotistical leaders. Guess what they're saying? It's all about me. Okay, and you got this border conflict that needs to be settled. It's not going to be settled perfectly according to anybody, but instead of that, it's like, well, let's just kill a few more people. Maybe I'll get my way.
Other than Dave Weinbaum Show, where can people find and buy your book?
It's still available at Amazon. It's still the guidebook for dealing with duplicitous leftists, and I as much as it's been out for quite a while now, America needs it.
I have a beautiful doctor from, you'll never guess where she's from, Western Australia, waiting to talk to me about the pandemic. All right,
about the pandemic.
Yeah, She's on the end of it. Believe me, I can't. I'll explain later in my interview to her how I got this interview. It's amazing though. But how did the deli owner get rich?
I
You
give
gonna
up.
answer? No, I figured you would. He thought outside the locks. Bada boom. All right.
He didn't ham it up.
That's it. He didn't ham it up. That's right. That's good. Almost a bada boom for you. There you go. That's one for you.
Yeah, that was
You're
actually
finally
better.
getting with it.
That was
Thank you,
better.
Lisa. I heard that.
All right, my next guest. Let's go to the next guest. She's
God bless.
early,
God
but
bless.
what
Bye-bye.
the heck? She's calling all the way from Australia. Hi there. Can you listen? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, you can. All right. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And let me just introduce you. I'm going to call you Dr. J.K. Hasson. Can I use that?
The Dr. JK will be fine.
I'm sorry, Dr. Hasson?
JK.
Dr.
No,
J.K. will be
JK.
fine. Because Leah Stagno said to call you that. I don't know if you know
Yes,
Leah
yes,
or not, but yes, you do. Okay.
yes.
This doctor is author of a book analyzing COVID-19 vaccine death reports, the VAERS reports, and the author of Too Many Dead. Please welcome all the way from Western Australia, Dr. J.K. And thank you for being on the show. Wow, I had a rabbi from Israel before you, and now I've got somebody from Western Australia. Okay, so I want to talk to you about the VAERS report first, because that's something that caught my eye back in 2021. And personally, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor at all. But the VAERS report shows a remarkable spike back in February, I believe, of 2020. And it's also very very vague on stuff, and it's only 1% of the report is viable. How does that happen?
So Dave, I'm not sure if you're mistaken. So I didn't actually write anything in the VAERS reports. So basically,
No, I didn't suggest that. I suggested you know about it. I know you didn't write anything. I thought you had a book that was Too Many Dead.
Yes. So that was actually, so I'm an anesthetist in Australia, and I'm part of the Australian Medical Professional Society. That's an alternative medical organization to the Australian Medical Association. So because we had excess deaths, we put out a book, Too Many Dead, and so I actually didn't have a report in that book.
Oh.
But it was put out by the society that I'm part of.
I use a lot of AI.
Okay.
Yeah.
AI is giving you great information.
AI doesn't like you. Do you know that? Seriously,
not?
you're saying this is how you handle her. This is how you do this, and it's all negative stuff. And they're saying, well, don't let her get away with the I hate Pfizer kind of thing. And I said, I'm just a guy looking for a way to figure out what you want to talk about, and they're cautioning me about you. Why should I be cautioned about you?
Well, basically, I'm part of the group of volunteers who looked into the Pfizer documents that Pfizer wanted to have hidden for 75 years.
Right.
And we found basically how Pfizer put a sort of delayed the vaccine results around the time of the November 2020 election. So we can talk about that if you want.
Oh, sure.
Or the fact that when Pfizer approved the drug, there were more people that died in the trial at that point in time than they publicly admitted in journals and in the FDA briefing. So we can talk about how Pfizer basically underrepresented vaccine efficacy results around the time of the US election, because I think that's been investigated.
The 2020 US election, correct?
Yep. Because remember when President Trump was having a debate with Joe Biden. He basically said we'll get a vaccine before the election, and that was because they actually had a contract with the U.S. government, basically that the vaccine was supposed to be approved and delivered before the 31st of October 2020, and Pfizer had enough cases to analyze for an effective vaccine. I use those words, effective vaccine, and they didn't. They sat on it, and what we show is that even when Pfizer publicly said, the day after Joe Biden was declared president, November 8th, they said that, we've got 94 cases. They actually had 134 cases. So they could have actually declared an effective vaccine way before the election, and they didn't. So I wrote the report about 2 years ago, and I think recently Alex Berenson was talking to Charlie Kirk about it. That they've basically found the same analysis that we found 2 years ago. And maybe that's why AI doesn't like me. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it myself in AI.
Now,
so.
the VAERS report is in the New England Journal of Medicine, and it's also approved by the CDC. Isn't that right?
So VAERS is a reporting system for vaccine safety that the CDC uses. Yeah.
Yeah, and isn't it true that this is now the AI saying, well, it's voluntary, but I heard it was required for doctors to report this, and less than
1%. That's the number actually.
And AIA calls this that it lacks nuance. What the hell's that?
I think in a sense, you can't discriminate against, nuance. I mean, it just you can't really get the good picture.
Is that a scientific term? Nuance? I mean,
it's an English term, so you can interpret it.
So you actually did a study with Harvard about this 1%. And
no, I didn't. So I'm not sure if you actually put the right person into AI to. So I didn't write any report with VAERS, Dave.
Did you do anything with a Harvard study of the 1% acclamation?
No.
All right. Well, I'm
not me.
Maybe I got you. I don't know how I got you mixed up. Your name is so easy. So
I know. I actually maybe have to go look up myself in VAERS. Maybe I should community note it.
They're saying very, very negative things. I thought I had it right.
Yeah. I suppose if you hit that's when you were seeking vaccine approval, or you're trying to hide, not declared efficacious vaccine when the contract required you to, you might say it's negative. But as I said, I haven't Googled myself in AI, so I'm not quite sure what
I would do it. I would do it because I think I was using your name that I had on the on your email.
Okay,
so got them in there. Anyways, what was your position in your judgment against Pfizer's reporting on its phase 3 trial? Now, were you on that?
So I'm part of the volunteer group that looked into Pfizer's the data that Pfizer used to get approval from the FDA. So they didn't want that data public for 75 years, and then through court order, it was made public. So basically, as a group of volunteers, we've been looking at this data since it was publicly available, and we've written reports about it. So prior to that, it was on the Daily Cloud, but now some of us, that project with the Daily Cloud has ended. So we are still, as a group of volunteers, still looking at the data, and we are under pandemicinvestigationproject.com.
Okay, so what feed? How does Pfizer treat you? What do they think of you?
I don't think they've heard of me, so it doesn't matter.
If
they've heard of me, that they're not letting me know. So we're just ordinary.
So you don't know anything about the James O'Keefe Project Veritas report where he sat down with a person who is important in Pfizer, who was telling him telling a person that was like fake that they don't care about how many bodies there are, they just care about cash flow. Are you familiar with that?
Well, I did ask for that. I couldn't find that particular clip, but as I said, what we found is that when Pfizer actually sought approval of the drug in December 2020, at that point they said 6 people had died in the trial. What we found is that there were actually 11 people that died. And what I found was paperwork for one patient in Kansas and one patient in Georgia, that these patients had died. The clinical site had been informed they had died. And this was before the data cutoff date. And these deaths by the trial protocol should have been declared. And these deaths were not publicly disclosed. And one of them had an autopsy. And that patient, that subject died of sudden cardiac death.
So let me ask you, did the FDA, CDC, TGA, have they validated your claims of hidden death?
Basically what we did was as a team, we wrote to the New England Journal of Medicine, talking about all the inconsistencies and discrepancies that we found with what was publicly reported, and they've come back and said, nothing to see here. I've written to
New
the
England
TGA.
Journal of Medicine, the biggest, most worshipped by all doctors.
Absolutely.
And they said it's not worth talking about.
Yeah. So there's factual inconsistencies. When they approved the drug, they said that 6 people died more in the placebo group than the vaccine. But in actual fact, at that point, it was more people died in the vaccinated arm compared to the placebo arm. So it was opposite of what they were trying to portray publicly. What actually happened, and the New England Journal of Medicine said, we've reviewed this, there's nothing here. And I've also written to the Australian regulatory authorities, and they've basically said nothing to see here either. So nobody really wants to know the factual truth.
So is this some kind of a conspiracy? Was this an organized conspiracy to hide the deaths and the wrongness caused by the vaccines, the sickness?
I mean, I don't like using words like conspiracy, but there is a lot of corruption out there. That's what I can see as a doctor. I think that a lot of things got politicized in COVID, and doctors should have been allowed to be doctors, but it got politicized and everybody got involved, and then we couldn't deliver proper care for people. And there's a lot of corruption because there was so much censorship. There's been a lot of corruption, and for me, I think it's really sad in the medical community. Doctors have come to a point where we can't question anything. It's a label on someone. So I've just heard one previous colleague just label me an anti-vax and they don't want to know me, but I'm actually just talking about common sense, critical thinking that everybody should be able to do. And, the stakes have been made so high for people that if you disagree, you lose your job. And that's what happened to me. I got fired because I didn't take the COVID vaccine. So,
you got fired, right?
Yep, I got fired.
Wow. Because you wouldn't take
my job
it
as
back.
an anesthetist because I didn't. Because I asked my previous employer, please justify the risk of this new novel medication to me, and let's do a risk assessment, the risk of the disease and the risk of the cure. I mean, this is just basic risk assessment, entirely logical thinking, and I got fired for that. So, whether it's I don't know whether it's a conspiracy, but there's a lot of corruption and censorship and a lot of cowardice in the medical community as well. So that's where we are.
I'll tell you my story. I'm here with my wife, Lisa, And back in 21, we got it. We got the disease. We're coming back from Jamaica, I believe, and maybe you got on a plane or whatever. But her family is in the they were in the cattle business, so they had
veterinary business.
Veterinary
So we had vet
business.
drugs.
So they had ivermectin. So
Yeah.
started feeding me ivermectin, you know, and
Yeah.
we were drinking it. It's terrible taste, but I called my doctor. Says I've got this thing. You know, he's probably still sitting in his office with a mask on, by the way. And this guy was my doctor for 25 years. I had just seen recently the VAERS the VAERS report where it had a huge jump in I guess it was February, January of that year, and I says, you know, I think I've got it, and he says, well, you got to come in for shots right now. I says, well, yeah, but don't I have antibodies? Because we're almost over it. It seems like. And he says, well, I don't know about that, but you have to get that vaccine in you. And I says, so what about the VAERS report? He says, well, I only read the New England Journal of Medicine. That's all I read. So I hung up. I hooked it up to I linked it. The VAERS report, New England Journal of Medicine. Well, guess what's in the New England Journal of Medicine? The VAERS report. So I called him back, and he says, oh, yeah, I found out that's a VAERS report. It's in the I says, you know what? Let's stop this conversation right now. After 25 years, you're fired.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
somewhere this is crooked.
Yeah, exactly. I think the incentives were so perverse, you know, to have any discussion, because thinking led you to places where you could lose your job as a medical professional. And, you know, I think a lot of thinking stopped and people just accepted it and just did it. So, yeah, it's very sad. It's very, very sad. It's part of the reason why I did what I did. Because I thought when they actually approved it for pregnant women, I thought the wheels have fallen off. We never give pregnant women drugs with this short a safety history. You know, I just couldn't believe that a profession that, you know, would have a memory of thalidomide could actually go down and say, you know, let's take a drug with the name mRNA and give it to women who are forming babies, who are actually pregnant. I just couldn't believe it.
Well, in my limited knowledge of this, it sounds like a conspiracy to murder a lot of people and a lot of babies. I don't know. You know, I can't scientifically prove it, but I saw people now who, like my friends, my best friend had the Moderna shot, and suddenly he's sick. So I got to talk to him, and I said, what the hell's going on with you? Oh, I got the flu. I said, how do you know it wasn't a pandemic? Because the doctor told me it's the flu. It's the flu. And I didn't know he had taken the Moderna shot before that. And so so a couple days later, I found out he's in the hospital. He's in the hospital with a heart condition, right? So so I called him in the hospital. I says, how you feeling now? You got operated on? He says, yeah, I feel a little better. 2 days later, he has what happens in your head?
He had a stroke.
He had a stroke.
After
and
a
he's
heart
dead.
attack.
He's
After a heart
dead.
attack, yeah.
And I found out about that he took the shot from his employer. He was my banker, for goodness sake. And then I'm finding that the butcher at the local Kroger's store, the grocery store, he had it and died, and he took the shot. And people that I know, people that are related to me and their relatives are dead. I mean, it's all over the place, it seems like. And I'm just in a small Missouri, you know.
It's
and
very
so-
sad. It's very, very sad. I mean, the shots should be pulled off the market, and the fact that they're still up there, like, you know, legally, it's very sad. It
Now,
shows how powerless we are. And if you think about it, if you think about the fact that a company can sign a contract with the U.S. government for delivery of a vaccine and then withhold that results possibly to influence an election. I mean, think about how they had enough cases. That's what we showed in our report, which you can find report 76 on the Daily Cloud, as well as the pandemic investigation. They had enough cases. They changed the protocol. They changed the rules so as not to have a vaccine announcement before November 2020 election. And they sat on it. So think about how powerful that corporation is to actually even do that to a country like the United States.
Corporation and industry, and it's all over the world. How many people died because of this?
Absolutely.
Can you estimate how many people died? It has to be about 10 million or so.
I think some numbers like that are being bandied around. Yeah, it is very tragic. I mean, this, as I said, these shots should be pulled off the market. They shouldn't be given to anyone. And it's terrible. I just wish more people in the medical profession had spoken up or even start to speak up, but we're not really seeing that as well. So
well,
we'll
like
see what happens.
you, the ones that speak up get banned
Pay
and they
heavy
get
price.
fired. You've got kids staying at home from school for a couple years, a year or two. You have masks. How do the masks work? Do they work?
They don't work.
They don't work. And
That's
you got
it.
kids walking
That's the
around
end
in
of the story.
masks. You got old people walking around in masks or sent to these hospitals where they put them on a ventilator, and that kills a lot of them. Or they put them in old people's homes. It's incredible what's happening. This is mass murder in my mind. In my mind, I know you can't say that, but it sure looks like it to me. Something's happening, and somebody's responsible for it. And maybe a lot of people are responsible for it, but it takes a little coordination to do this. So anyways, this is a great interview, and I really appreciate you being there. I told you 15 minutes. We're at about 16 minutes now, 17 minutes. Anything you'd like to say?
So I mean, come and look at the reports. I mean, if you think about it, when they for the Pfizer vaccine, when they actually did the study, it was only one study, and then they declared, this is an efficacious vaccine. The sheer amount of volume of pages that were formed the basis of the vaccine approval was about 500,000. So not one person can read this. So come to Pandemic Investigation Project, support our work, and have a read of the reports, because this is what was done to people. Nobody really got any informed consent for anything that they have taken. And if you really want to know what's in it, obviously there's the Pfizer paper, that's the book that's out, as well as finding our work on the Daily Cloud and the Pandemic Investigation Project. If you think about it, if you were a person, so the person that was in Kansas, this person signed up to be part of the clinical trial. This person died. This person got the vaccine. She was a 63-year-old woman. She got the vaccine. She's in Kansas. She died. She actually had an autopsy. And this happened before the data cutoff date, and they hid it. They sat on it. Imagine if you were someone in this happened to people in the United States. People signed up in good faith for a clinical trial, and something adverse happened to them, and they've got no recourse. So there's a lot of work to do to regain our health and our power in society.
Okay, just a couple more questions. I'm begging you. Thomas Haviland, have you ever heard of him?
No, who's he?
He is a guy that went out and did he went to embalmers who did autopsies on people that that had died recently, and they found all these white fibrous
clots
in the veins, which were causing all sorts of damage to these people who eventually died. And they were never ever that didn't happen to them. The only blood clots they would have would be grape-like, and very diminishing. These were tight. These were fibrous.
I know. Yeah.
That and I'd like to know what your I know you did a interview with Peter McCullough, Dr. Peter McCullough.
Yes.
Just give me two opinions about that, both, and then we're done. I promise.
Okay, so yes, the clots are terrible. I mean, this has made people probably a lot of the sudden deaths are probably because obviously of myocarditis and also these clots, and it's really sad. I mean, these drugs should not be on the market anymore. And I was really grateful that Dr. Peter McCullough actually wanted to hear about my the work. And so I was very happy to be able to tell him about the hidden deaths. So that's what the deaths that happened before the data cutoff date and should have been publicly disclosed, but were not. And also how Pfizer basically underrepresented vaccine efficacy data for the November 2020 election. So that interview is also out there under focal points.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. J.K. Okay.
Thank you.
And yeah, my wife is applauding. We're both. We didn't take it. We didn't take the shot. We're so proud of each other now, and it's amazing that they got away with this for so long and are still doing it. All right, keep up the good work, Doctor. Thank you so much for being a star on the Dave Weinbaum Show.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. I was gonna tell her a joke, but I just don't want this. I don't want to ruin it. She might not like the joke or
Thank
might
you.
not understand it.
Thank you.
So
showing great reserve there.
Yes. So I'll tell it to JP. So JP, JP, I swallowed a wrench. My doctor said, "Don't worry, this tool shall pass." There you go. Okay, that was for. I don't think she's listening anymore. She's in Western Australia. It's like 12 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night there. This is just incredible stuff. All right, commercial time. And then we got Bill Hardwick. Okay, hit it.
Your home is your castle. You don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments. That's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day. Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Rolla, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our #1 goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
With warmer temperatures right around the corner and allergies ramping up, now's the time to get those AC units serviced. At Hartley's, we pride ourselves in offering outstanding service with fast response times. With proper maintenance, you can make those hot days be a lot cooler and remove those pesky allergens that always seem to find their way into your home. Call us today so you can be living a much cooler and healthier life. Hartley's, community born, community raised, community serving.
Call Hartley's Climate Control today at 573-368-3163.
Never be too coy to tell your friends and family about koi sushi and hibachi. Celebrate the best Chinese-Japanese restaurant in the Midwest. Call 573-426-5551 to make a reservation or order takeout. Locally owned, 1808 North Bishop, Rolla, Missouri.
We can sum up McDonald's new crispy chicken sandwich in one word. Crispy. But also juicy and tender. Okay, it's crispy, juicy, tender. All one word? But then, also pickle. Oh, and potato bun, which is 2 words. Okay, we can't sum up our new crispy chicken sandwich in one word, so you'll just have to try it to understand it. Order ahead on the McDonald's app at participating McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Merrill's Quarry and Asphalt, 40 years serving cities, counties, and everyday businesses with driveways for people who live and work in our little piece of heaven right smack dab in the middle of America. Call 573-578-9101 for your free estimate of rocking, rolling, paving, driveways, sealing, and striping too. That's 573-578-9101 for your free estimate.
Your home is your castle, you don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments, that's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Rolla, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our number one goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333.
Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
At your locally owned Price Chopper, our standards are high because we know yours are. See for yourself what an incredible fresh selection of grocery items we have in store. Talk to our expert meat associates about what you're looking for. They're happy to meet any special requests like custom cuts, or see our expert produce associates on how to pick out the best fruits and vegetables. Quality in the deli means fresh, full flavor, and always delicious. If you're craving fresh baked goodness, we have that too. You can expect the best selection and the best value while interacting with our friendly and knowledgeable employees. You can find what you're looking for fast and easily at the best prices at Price Chopper. Fresh savings every day. A-Car Real Estate, where experience matters. 532 million sold since 2003, the number one sales volume in Phelps County. As a client for decades, I can say they are the best in mid-Missouri. Call 573-368-7355. That's 573-368-7355 for the best real estate experience you'll ever have. Gotta reach 'em, see it right now. Insurance going up like crazy? Daniel and Henry Insurance is one of the largest private insurance companies in the world. Richard Boyette, 314-444-5011. He's my guy at Daniel and Henry for 10 years. Business or personal, call Richard at 314-444-5011. He's the best.
At Town & Country Bank, we are committed to providing exceptional service to our customers. We do more than just provide loans for our community. We help make dreams become reality. Whether it's a new home, farm, business, or a new car, we would love the opportunity to help. Stop by one of our 2 Rolla locations and let our friendly lending team remind you how special hometown banking can be. Smart, friendly solutions. Town & Country Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Okay, I'm here actually with my next guest, who's on time, looking sharp, shaved, and wearing a shirt,
actual shirt, yeah,
an actual shirt. Combed his hair.
I brushed it, yeah.
Yeah, I brushed my hair earlier today, but it seems to have gone off somewhere. I don't know why. I have no idea why. This gentleman here was an Iraqi platoon leader. He's still in the National Guard. He's a Missouri state rep, now running for the Senate in Missouri. He's a philosopher, professor, lawyer, and he's a friend. Please welcome, all the way from, Waynesville, Missouri, Bill Hardwick.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody. Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
All right,
a lot of people came out today.
Enough. All right, I want to play his clip first because I want people. I said I would do it earlier, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what's going to happen on June 30th.
Right.
Right. All right. Hit it, please.
The distinguished gentleman from Pulaski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Mr. Speaker, last year we had the Amendment 3 debate in our districts, and many of you did and made our positions where we were. And in my district, I argued vociferously against Amendment 3. Tried to put up signs, I did town halls, I did debates, and everywhere I went, I said that my conscience and my beliefs about what was right and wrong believes that this should not be in our Constitution. And everywhere I went, I said, even if it does pass, because it's such a core belief that I believe in, I'll fight to repeal it. I'll fight to take out what I think should not be in the Constitution and replace it, which I think we should uphold, which is a principle and a value of life. So I did that to the utmost of my ability, but my district still voted to approve Amendment 3 at the end of the day. However, at the same time, my district voted to re-elect me by 71%, knowing that that was a central position, and knowing that I even said at many town halls, I'm willing to lose my seat, even if it costs me votes, in order to fight against Amendment 3. So I got elected and I'm back here now. And if I ask the question, what do I do? What do I do with this choice that I'm presented, where I have this contradiction between what the voters voted on and what I said that I would uphold no matter what if I were elected? And so what I'm left to do is do what I truly believe in. And I want to describe what I believe in, first of all, as something I believe in math and logic. And here's a principle in mathematics and logic, that if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. It's called the transitive property of equality. It means if one thing's equal to something else, and that's equal to something else, they're all equal. And why is that relevant to what we're talking about? Because if any human life at all is worth protecting, is valuable, means something, is not just nothing in a nihilistic universe, if any of our lives matter, then all of our lives matter. Or the other possibility is none of our lives matter. Logically speaking, there are just two things that could exist. Either none of our lives are important, none of our lives worth protecting, or every single life is worth protecting. And I believe deep down inside, to the chagrin and the disagreement to many of my colleagues and people around the state, I believe every single life is worth protecting. Whether you have a disability, whether someone has Down syndrome, no matter what their race is, no matter whether they're a Republican or Democrat, every human life, and yes, I believe, is a gift from God. And I don't know why tragic things happen and horrible things happen, but I know that I believe that life comes from God and God wants us to live. And I think that my duty here in this place is to do every single thing I can to protect life and uphold life. And I think that the mother is a human life and the baby is a human life. And our duty as legislators is to protect both of them as people who have equal worth and value, just like everybody in our state. And so this bill comes before us. It's the opportunity to do what I said I would do and do what I believe in. And so it's easy for me to vote yes. It's easy for me to vote yes for that precept and that principle. And it's been said, I think it's been said on the floor, you guys will just keep fighting, you keep going for it. Yeah, if something you truly believe in is that important and matters that much as what we say about all human life, there's nothing more basic and important and central as to whether or not any one of our lives matters. I think a lot of us are not here holding our nose voting for it. I think a lot of us are here for this very reason. It's why we ran for office. It's why we came to the legislature, to uphold this basic principle that every human life is important and that every human life has equal worth and value ontologically, and that there's no higher good than us protecting that and defending that. And so I hope everyone will vote for this resolution. I know I certainly will. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That speech was one of the best speeches I've ever heard, and especially from a politician. It's hard for me to call you that, quite frankly, because you're not the typical politician. What's your response?
I don't want to be a politician. I want to be somebody who stands up for what's right, and I want to try to embody that. I wasn't planning on giving that speech as you talked about, but I was thinking about it recently because I posted something on Facebook, and now when I post something, somebody will say, well, why are you overturning the will of the people? Because Missouri voted to put Amendment 3, which is abortion on demand in the Missouri Constitution last fall, and I'm opposed to it, and I'm trying to undo it, doing everything I can to undo it. And so I saw that, and how I'm undoing the will of the people, and a couple points in response. One is that I can't undo the will of the people. The people have to vote on a new constitutional amendment. So I'm sending it back to the people. But to that point, what if the entire world wanted me to do something unjust, something that I thought was evil, and I believed that it was wrong? Wouldn't it be the right thing for me to do to oppose them, even if everybody wanted me to do that?
Yeah.
So
if what I said is true, that everybody's life matters and nobody's life is more valuable than anybody else's, and that's something my parents taught me. Nobody's better than anybody else.
Right.
Everybody's valuable, right? Every human life's worth protecting, especially vulnerable and innocent life. If I really believe that, then isn't the right thing for me to do to try to fight and uphold it? And I don't think I'm doing it in a way that's I'm not trying to condemn people. I'm not trying to go after people. I want to protect mothers too. But we have to say that those innocent lives mean something and they're worth protecting, because if we don't, all of our rights, obligations, and morals to each other unravel, in my opinion. So I think it's something that's really basic and fundamental to our society, that we're protecting the innocent. And I'm not willing to, there's some things I think you should compromise on. Like if you go, okay, should it be 18% or 10%, stuff like that. Those are good things that we could talk about, compromise, figure different points of view. But there are some things you really can't compromise on. And one of those things is, okay, we're going to protect life. We're going to protect the Constitution, our rights, our freedoms. Those are just things that you have to believe, that I believe in. Right.
Sure.
And so, yeah, if the whole district was like, don't do it, then I'd say, we got to pick somebody else to represent you, because I'm not going to change this. This is who I am.
Right. So you are willing to get voted out versus doing something that would accommodate everyone and have that stick with you your entire life, which I think is a wise move, but politically probably inept.
So yeah, I've taken hard positions since I started to come into public office. And there are some people who definitely do not like it. And the issue of abortion is one of those issues that some people are definitely opposed to my position and are very vocal about letting me know about that. There are several of them like that.
Sure.
But what would be the point of me running for office and taking that position if I had to compromise my beliefs so much to get there? And then once I got there, I would just be living a lie.
I mean, what's important?
What's important? So exactly. And then you get there and what's the point of being there if you can't fight for the things you believe in?
Yeah.
We're way better off if candidates just say, here's exactly what I would do. And here's the kind of person I would be in that office. Here's what I'm going to champion. Here's what you can count on me to fight for. And then if people like it, they can vote for it. And then that's what they're going to get. They know they're going to get what the person said they would do. We're way better off in a system like that.
And follow up with honesty.
Yeah. And I don't think
not changing as some politicians would do. I understand that you have to negotiate certain things.
Sure.
They're negotiating the big bill right now in DC. They're negotiating.
Sure.
Okay. But you have to do it on principle.
That's right. I think that you could come and say, well, hey, my district, we're doing appropriations. We're trying to appropriate. Yeah, there's a lot of room to negotiate for your district. But let's say that in a bill there was, and I think we need to this should come into focus for me too. Let's say in a bill that it took away our religious liberty. There was a First Amendment problem on it. Let's say it took away our Second Amendment rights. Let's say that it had a pro-abortion measure in it. Well, it doesn't matter if there's something else good in it. I can't vote for that. Let's say that it was a bill that gave my district everything it wanted in terms of appropriation, but it had a COVID mandate in there, right?
Yeah.
I'd have to vote no on it.
Exactly.
And I think that what I want to do, and hopefully part of the campaign that I express, is if more people oppose bills like that and voted no, then the system would just start to having to take one issue at a time. But you have to have things that you just don't compromise on.
Sure.
But the system insists upon you compromising and ostracizes you if you don't. But I think if more people didn't compromise, we'd have a better system for the people. And I think that an important part of this next campaign cycle is coming into focus those kinds of things that we don't want our representatives compromising on.
Yeah, and I just had a woman on from Western Australia who was a doctor that was fired because she's done studies on Pfizer and how the pandemic has hurt people, and she refused to take the shot. And she says, I got fired.
I mean, that definitely is one of the issues that animates me. You know that we've talked about that. It's one of the things that we're connected on. That something like that could happen again, and is happening.
Of course.
And I am disappointed.
It's still going on.
It's still going on, and I'm disappointed. A lot of conservatives are disappointed that now we're acting like it never happened, and we're acting like that'd be okay if the government and Pfizer did something like that again. And like you said, there's stuff going into their shots that they're not telling people about right now.
Right.
And so that's a big issue. And somebody to say, okay, like the right of a person to say no to have informed consent.
Yeah.
That's going to be something critical. That's the kind of thing and I had a meeting a week or so ago and somebody was like, well, what would you filibuster if you were a senator? And I was like, yeah, there's some things I'd filibuster for. Life, stuff like vaccine mandates, informed consent. I'd filibuster over that when your freedom's being taken away. Because a lot of times they go, well, we compromised. We worked out a deal. We got something appropriation. There are just some things that somebody needs to stand up on and fight and say, it's not that nothing I like ever passes. It's just some things we can't let pass. There's some things we have to draw a line in the sand over. And to me, actually, to be honest with you, that's one of the main reasons why I even decided to run, is because I was disappointed that there weren't people drawing a line in the sand over things like that. Things like the vaccine mandate, things like these issues, right? To say, we're gonna fight and we're not gonna backpedal.
And you're either going to get kicked out or you're going to make it bigger because, you got 50. They got 52% of the vote. You got 71%. It was a complete opposite deal, except for that 52%. Why was there such a difference? Wasn't it wasn't a lot of it the outside people coming in and spending money for the advertising, leaving out some of the other material?
Yeah, no, and I think it's part of it. I think it's part of it's the wording. Part of it's people who didn't think that the measure was extreme as it was, the way it was worded.
Yeah.
They saw things like birth control and said, hey, I'm voting to support that.
Yeah, sure.
Not for abortion on demand. I think that, because it is a little dichotomy. If you look at my Facebook from that period of time, it's a no on Amendment 3 debate. It's me putting up no on Amendment 3 signs. It's me everywhere I could go saying, hey, oppose this. This is not good. This is what people who support life, this is what people who conservatives need to come out for. It's a key issue for us. And then the district still supported it. And then, so that means there are a whole lot of people who voted for Amendment 3 and voted for me. Right.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, okay, what does that tell you? That could tell you that maybe some people admire conviction. At least they know where you stand. Maybe some people think all things being equal, I do a good job on other issues. I do a good job taking care of constituents, being responsible in their areas. So there are people who say, hey, that maybe that issue is not as important to me, but he's good at other
and you're
issues.
a smart guy and you're a funny talker.
Well, I think that
can be funny.
I think, excuse me, sorry. I am kind of funny. I'm pretty humorous. I think that I am pretty funny, but I have this theory too about voters that they can smell what you're like. And if you're
now you know you're funny.
That's
you've got the stamp of the Weinbaum Show saying you're funny.
I was curious about it until I got that critical feedback, but now I know.
Now you know.
Now the my doubts are erased.
We ought to make little things on there. I know I'm funny because Weinbaum Show anointed me.
Right.
There you go.
Identified as funny by the Dave Weinbaum Show.
There you go.
No, that's important.
Yeah.
No, I have a theory about the voters too, like that they can tell what you're really like. And there are people, if they like disdain the voters, they just don't like people, or they're kind of like stuck up. When people meet them, they can tell it. And then if you really do have a humble attitude, or you kind of have a servant's heart, or you do love people,
you can tell it.
When you interact with people, they can tell it. And so you can have all the consultants in the world tell you what to say.
Yeah.
You can have all the whatever, but when you meet a person, they can sense like what you're really like.
Sure.
And I think you can't fake that, and nobody can give you consultant advice to fake whether or not you really actually love people. So I think there are some constituents who don't agree with me on everything, but they know that I really do have a heart for them, and I'm trying to do the best I can for the people.
And you won't have to do a survey on how to talk to men.
How to talk to men?
Yeah.
Like the Democrats are doing to find out how to reach the voter base.
Yeah, I get that.
Well,
I get that.
You're not going to have to do that.
He's the epitome of that.
Yeah, I'm a man.
Yeah. How about
for the record?
What are for the record? What are the Democrats? Why can't they get men to vote for them?
What did they spend on?
Why?
Real
What's
men.
my opinion?
Yeah.
20 million.
No, I want you to lie. Yes, of course I want your opinion.
Okay. Risking being controversial and alienating people. Here's why the Democrats have a problem with men. Because they have a problem with the groups that they talk down to, which are more and more groups. So if you're saying men are the problem, masculinity is the problem. If you're saying, hey, you're bad, you need to do better. You need to deny who you are, that sort of thing. You're fundamentally bad.
Yeah.
So that's not a very appealing message. So the message of the Democrat Party is that masculinity is bad, which masculinity is not. What's masculinity? Masculinity is taking action. It's providing. It's stepping up. Masculinity is taking care of it. That's what masculinity is.
Yeah.
Oh, your car broke down. I get out and I change your tire for you. It's raining. I hold the umbrella for you. Oh, there's a wolf attack. I'm going to get between you and it. That's what masculinity is. It's a good thing. It's not bad. We can't villainize that. So masculinity is not toxic. But to say all men, these things that men do, where they go out and work and provide for their family, we've also really put that down to say, hey, I'm working, I'm getting up early, I'm exhausted. Some days I'm exhausted, right?
I'm sure.
But some days I'm exhausted, and then it's like, well, the kids broke this, or there's whatever, and they need help, and I help them, right?
Yeah.
And to me, that's like what being a man is. You're providing, you're sacrificing yourself, you're taking care of somebody else. And so we shouldn't have villainized that socially and societally. We should say, hey, being a mom's an important thing. Being a woman's a good thing. Being a dad's a good thing. We need both of you. And nobody's better than anybody else. But it's okay to be a man. It's a good thing.
Did you know a judge by the name of Dwayne Benton?
No.
Perchance. It was a while back. He was actually the head of the Supreme Court in Missouri for a while. And before that, he was my lawyer. And that was under Harvey Teitelbaum. You know him, right?
Yeah, I remember Harvey.
So this guy, he just was excellent on everything. He was in the Army. He was in the top of his class at Yale, where Justice Thomas was going and leaving, and left him his books and stuff like that. And so he went to work for Harvey Teitelbaum. And he was handling one of my court appearances for a divorce. And so, he did that. All right. And I noticed one thing was that when he got up on the witness stand, it was all, I'm not sure, I don't know, I wasn't there, blah, blah. All right. Just like any other guy would be. And then he came down and he hugged me in front of the court and everything else. And I noticed the judges, they all got a little dressed up a little bit and stuff like that. But this guy, I also introduced him in a McDonald's meeting. And it was the guy who was the Republican governor, Carnahan. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He gets up and makes a speech, and he's terrible.
No, Carnahan
really sucked.
He was the governor. He was from Rolla. He was a Democrat.
I know. And then I had to introduce Dwayne Benton, and I did a little bit about him. Doing everything like Bo Jackson did, all these different sports and different things that he accomplished. And he got up on stage, he takes a microphone, and my last line was, and by the way, he was my lawyer for 6 years.
Yeah.
So he yells out, well, if you paid my bills, I would have stayed. I says, yeah, but that would mean you would have had to have won a case.
Right. Oh my goodness!
And he was entertaining. He was entertaining. He was fun, and yet he was a very smart guy and knew what he was doing. And he was a Republican, by the way, too. Anyways, I just want to throw that in there.
I like Missouri history. There's a lot of cool characters and figures and stuff.
Yeah,
the law and government.
Do you know Teitelbaum is like 89 years old? He's still practicing.
Yeah, I met him at the Republican National Convention in 2004. Yeah. So that was 21 years ago.
Yeah.
I first met him there. It was in New York City. Yeah.
How about
it's pretty cool.
How about that? Anyhow, let's go back to some stuff. Have we stopped outside money coming in that's supporting things like Amendment 3?
We did pass a bill that foreign funding for elections is forbidden in Missouri. We just passed that. But the governor hasn't signed it yet, I don't think. But we just passed it like the last week of session.
Is there a lot of blowback with that? A lot of people.
I think so. I mean,
why?
It passed on partisan lines. I really don't know. I don't think that we should. I've always had an issue with China and other countries trying to pick who the people get elected in the United States.
Sure.
always had a problem with that. I think that if you're talking about outside money, we also want to think about what the First Amendment is, because you can give money to a candidate, and it's part of your First Amendment right. You go, hey, this person, they're pro-life. I want to give them $50, because I'm pro-life too. That's part of you speaking with your check, right? So that's okay, and that's
a First Amendment.
That's a First Amendment
guarantee,
thing,
right?
So we want to make sure that we respect.
So your vote is actually guaranteed by the First Amendment that it is actually able to be counted.
Your vote
isn't that interpreted by the Supreme Court?
Yeah. So your support for a candidate is protected by the First Amendment. Your vocal support, you're supporting them, you're giving them stuff, you volunteering, you giving your resources. That's you speaking politically. And religious and political speech are the most protected types of speech in the United States. Your right to vote is protected by the 15th Amendment, which is one of the post-Civil War amendments, right? The inability for a state to intrude upon your First Amendment or 15th Amendment rights is found in the 14th Amendment. No state shall deprive anybody of due process. So that they're all our constitutional protections. So I think that as we want, here's my thought process on things like keeping China out of our owning farmland, which I don't think you should own it, and keeping out of our elections. China is trying to take over for sure, get themselves in Missouri, and then influence our elections, control our food supply, all kinds of stuff. So we need to stop them, and we need to keep them from picking the candidates they want, from controlling our food supply. Yeah. We also need to be careful that we don't become China in our way to stop it, because we don't want to adopt authoritarian measures that protect freedom, or that kind of like intrude upon our freedom. So we want to stop China, but we also want to make sure that we retain what's special and unique and exceptional about America, which is the freedom and rights we protect for everybody. So that's kind of the balance I try to strike when I'm approaching things like agricultural land and campaign finance issues, right? Mm-hmm. Because I can't say, because I don't like your position, you can't support a candidate or buy property. But I do want to say that money can't come from the Chinese Communist Party, and the Chinese Communist Party shouldn't be buying farmland in Missouri.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Farmland in Missouri, and they have 27,000 Chinese in Harvard who are basically serving the Chinese Communist Party, and they just caught a couple of them with agro-terrorism weapon in the U.S. One of them escaped back to China, and the other one's in jail right now.
Yeah, we're kind of like a frog in a boiling pot. Like, so everybody sells their land. Everybody sells because they want what everybody wants, money.
Yeah.
So they go, man, I got a fantastic deal on this land. I got a fantastic deal, equity stake in my agriculture business. So they make a lot of money off of it. But China can basically just print money, and they do. Yeah. They just create money out of fiat creation of money. So people are trying to make they're selling their farms, they're selling stakes in their business. China's buying it. We don't have any mechanism to stop it, really. Missouri already even know how much land China owns. And then at some point,
how do we not have any mechanism to stop it? They're an outside country. We can't go into China and buy land from China, can we?
That's a good question. I'll give you a direct answer. The people probably deserve a direct answer. So you don't know that it's China buying. So let's say you go sell your farm, you sell your house, right?
Yeah.
So random guy comes up and he goes, "I want to buy it."
Yeah.
You don't know that guy's backed by an LLC, and that LLC is 70% owned by a different company. That's owned by a different company. It's a Chinese company, and the companies in China are subsidiaries of the CCP essentially. So you don't know that, because when you go to sell your property, it might say Tom Smith.
Right.
It might say Missouri Farm Investments LLC, and you don't know who the stakeholders in that LLC are, because we don't disclose shareholders to LLCs in Missouri. And there's good and bad to that, right? You can start a business. I don't know if JP is your business partner or not. It's silent in Missouri. Now, in some states, it's heavily protected. Like Utah won't even disclose a member as like upon subpoena or whatever. It's protected by statute. Mm-hmm. Delaware is very protective of shareholders. So we have these protections so you can have the government's not getting in your business. But those same protections protect a company that's founded or funded by China to buy farmland without people knowing it. So I don't think there are farmers who are consciously selling out their country. They're just like, hey, the cost of fuel's up, the cow prices are down, the grain prices are down, my kids don't want to run the farm, we're in a squeeze, this person's offering me $15 million for my farm.
Yeah.
Let's go home and retire. But they don't know that $15 million basically came from China.
Right.
Wow. So it's going to be a huge problem, especially as we get we get into these trade wars and we get these tensions with China, that China will control the supply and demand of the production of commodities. And that will control the prices of food supply, right? And we won't have a good, and so people go, let's just seize the land. Okay, that's not like, then why wouldn't you do that now, right? It's not a practical solution. You need to find a way to stop them from doing what they're doing now. So there's got to be a way to unwind the Chinese ownership in Missouri and the Chinese stake and these agriculture companies. I think it's important.
Are these what Trump is negotiating on with President Xi right now, amongst other things? Because China is the big problem here.
So what Trump did was China was running roughshod around the world.
Yeah.
So what Trump did is he came in and he said, you're ripping off our intellectual property. You're ignoring everything in the World Trade Organization. If there's international regulations, you just defy it. You're basically buying up land all over the world, and you're having these contracts for infrastructure and internet and building a separate canal. They're just kind of taking over everything. So Trump was the first president ever, really. I mean, Nixon kind of tried to have polarity with them, but like to come in and say, we're going to push back. So we pushed back in all kinds of ways. We sent the fleet to the artificial islands of the South China Sea. We pushed back hard on North Korea on their nuclear weapons program. We started doubling our presence, our diplomatic presence in Taiwan, unofficially, but practically speaking. We started to say if it's manufactured in China, it's not going to be cheaper than stuff that's manufactured in the United States. So China responded by trying to say that we're basically in a fight. We're in a two superpower tug of war for influence around the whole world with us and China. And so China is the one that won the 2020 election by running Trump out of town.
Oh, and they helped them.
They definitely wanted Biden.
They helped the other
for sure,
side.
because Trump was tough on their 100-year plan.
Yeah.
So now Trump's back, and we're into it with China, and China has some weaknesses and strengths, but they're trying to run around Trump's policies. So we're really in a fight for control, like global control with China. And I just think that, just like Trump said, we've been stupid about it the whole time. We take money, but money's never free. They're always buying something from us. So it's kind of time to start manufacturing stuff in America, quit manufacturing our defense products in China, right? Manufacture it in Rolla with the super semiconductors and stuff in Rolla. Make it here. Make it so we're not dependent on them. Make it so part of this reduction of spending is that we don't have so much debt that's held by China. So we're less dependent on them because whoever you depend on controls you. And we depended on China for a ton of stuff. So I think it's all important. That's what's going on.
All right, let's talk about, finally, we only got 4 minutes left or less. The town hall that we're going to do on what do you see with this? How do people figure out how to go there and what's going to happen there?
So June 30th at the Oak Meadow Country Club, we're going to have a get together, and I'm going to talk about, why I want to be a state senator and meet some people. And I hope people will come and visit with me and ask about whatever they want to and tell me what they're looking for and people that represent them in the legislature. And you'll be there, and we've got McDonald's.
Yeah, I think we're going to get McDonald's food.
I'm pretty excited.
I know a person that owns some.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched about it. And there's a good connection to our president, Donald Trump, right?
Yum.
And,
I can't wait. I'm hungry.
So, yeah. No, I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, I've given a lot of money to McDonald's over the years.
That's
right? So since I was about.
So this is payback. This is like Musk.
Yeah, no, I vividly recall the Batman summer in 1989 at the St. Robert McDonald's and hanging out there. Yeah, for sure. But I really do. So that's going to be that event. People are going to be there. Hopefully people will support and just meet more people, and everybody's welcome to come. And I think it's going to be a good deal. So.
All right. Awesome. So now you got the lowdown on that. So pay attention. Where can people find you and ask you questions and stuff like that?
So we're launching up a new website, and Bill Hardwick, there's a public official page. There's a candidate page, Bill Hardwick on Facebook. Really great way. You can message me there. We'll message you back, interact with us on Facebook. We'll post links to all of our events there so people can find out about them and have invites. And you just follow us on the campaign trail at Bill Hardwick on Facebook. So.
All right. I was going to do a joke, but you know what? I don't think I can use this one. So I'm going to,
Be nice.
No, it's all right. So if I tell you a joke that's questionable, is that okay?
You have First Amendment right to say whatever you want.
All right. Well,
I can respond to it.
I'm telling you this to JP. Don't listen. JP, I hate nuts in my muffins, but I can't stand muffins in my nuts.
Oh,
That's terrible, isn't it?
Members of the audience are like getting up and walking out. Guys, it's
well, it's a good thing I did it at the end of the show, anyways.
Guys, we're sorry. No, it's.
I got crickets. I finally got crickets today.
They're not all home runs.
No, all right. They're not
but
all
you are, yeah. The show is a home run, though.
The show was a home run until now. All right, I screwed everything up. All right, I'm sorry. I apologize, but I want to thank everybody, especially Bill here, for putting up with me and my wife. Obviously, putting up JP and everyone that's listened to the show. All the people that I interviewed up until like now, maybe that I said that terrible joke. It was just horrible. I got to cut it from my inventory, so to speak. But this guy's for real, and we need people like him. We need him as well to help manage this country the way it ought to be managed. And he's a guy with a big heart, and that's what we need. We got one as a president too, and that's Donald Trump. So I want to thank everybody for listening, putting up with me, and I think it was a good show up until recently. I'll be back with another show next week.
Thank you, guys.